古云：“蜀道难，难于上青天。”而今有志者对天鸣笛，不惧蜀道难。无志所向，必一往无前。无志未达，何谓归期？涅槃之际，无问生死。
想一技能流，但是直接被秒掉。小五这边逃走了一下，看你的剑阵，上面风瑞，最后这边还没有倒进风瑞，马上就被秒了。完了，这边圣也倒了，艾矿这边打出一个冰冻效果，艾克拿到一个双杀。
诋毁、挚爱，无以复加。重披战袍，我必竭力而搏。
直接上开，他们不上了，他们只是想打架而已。这一波不好说，马这个倒了，瑞兹还在。
向心而行，重振旗鼓。蜀道之路，弱者畏途，能者征途。存鸿鹄之志，金戈铁马，不畏蜀道艰难。
Welcome back to week 1, day 5 of the LPL. You just saw it there. The Dark Forces never give up. OMG. We've moved from Shanghai. We're over in Chengdu. And that was kind of a little history recap of one of the greatest legacies of the LPL. OMG. International superstars lost the likes of the Go-Goings and the Cools for greener pastures, and are now this brand new rookie squad helmed by Icon, veteran and Xiang in the top lane, and just recently starting to find success again.
Yeah, very recently, because taking the victory versus Snake just this week is a massive surprise to everyone. A lot of people looked towards their lineup and said, I do not think much will change. Only one player changed, and it's still a three-man jungle nonsense. So a lot of people looked at it, a lot of us looked at it, and we're like, well, OMG's staying exactly where they are. But new split! And so that first victory means a lot.
Yeah, new split, new rules. Now, that said, they will be facing Rogue Warriors, one of our Rift Rivals representatives. And reminder that if you want to come into China and visit Rift Rivals, we have a link down here. Now, the only caveat is that you must type the link in exactly as it's posted there. So I know you don't want to open up your browser and hit your HTTP, semicolon / but make sure that that's there and you can buy your tickets. There's actually an English aspect of the site to help out our Western viewers if they want to come see the LCK, LMS, and LPL play.
That's the first test, though. Remember, if you do want to come here, the first test.
You're gated by the browser bar.
Get that right. Get the link right. So that's going to be excellent. Remember, it's in Dahlia, so that's going to be perfect.
Exactly. Now, speaking about Rogue Warriors, because this is the first time that the English broadcast is actually going to see them this split, if you haven't seen this team, we're going to introduce this for you. There are 2 names that you need to know, and the first one is Doinby.
Yep, Doinby. Of course, remember, originally from Jingdong, and he comes into this team as the head man. He's the person that's going to make your composition work. Now, of course, he has a lot of tools to work with. He can go towards the bottom lane, so he has the flexibility of being a major point of carry with the Vladimir, or he can go towards the supportive picks like Lulu and Karma.
And I love the word flexibility, because that is what this guy is all about. He made his name stick on playing things like Maokai and Nautilus mid. It just seems like whatever the meta is, he's going to figure out how to break it, known for his tank Victor as well. So a mad scientist, if you will, in that mid lane.
And he's very vocal as well. So if his team finds any, I would say, holes, if anything happens, if they lose, or if he gets criticism because of his tank builds, he's willing to get on that interview desk and say, at me, please. You don't even have Weibo, I know it. So, so it feels like the guy, he's vocal, he's
energetic,
especially if they take victories off of teams that he knows he needs to take victory off of. So eyes all are on him.
Which is why it's so hilarious in the juxtaposition against kind of the other big weapon on Rogue Warriors, which is SMLZ.
Yes.
It feels like, there's always this one primary carry that people focus in on for every single team. But for Rogue Warriors, when they were actually framing up the captains down there, they zoomed in on SMLZ and Doinby, because that's really the heart and soul of this team.
And that's where they really found themselves. We're at the end of the split in playoff time when things were going rough and they went to the 3rd place matchup. They took down Invictus Gaming Gaming because of those two players. The double threat Doinby is what we say a lot because it's not just SMLZ that you want to boost up and buff up. He has incredible stats last split. He continues to perform. But if you get both Doinby on the carries as a Cassiopeia, as we saw in the footage, and SMLZ, who's willing to walk 4 on his major AD carries, we saw Kog'Maw being played earlier this week, then you'll have a performing Rogue Warriors.
We know that SMLZ is the Chinese sniper over on the LPL broadcast. You know, you have to prep him, you got to scout, you got to make sure that you control his breathing, but when you take that shot, when you funnel in the resources to SMLZ, he will find the critical shot every single time. And still playing ADCs in this meta. The last time that we saw Rogue Warriors, I believe on Tuesday or Wednesday it was, they were playing the likes of the Dravens and the Kog'Maws.
That's what's interesting about the LPL, because people look towards LPL to see wacky picks and change in metas, but for the most part, when it comes to this meta, LPL has stayed still in the bottom lane. We're saying, wait a minute, we have incredible AD carries. We're a team that's identified by our iBoys, our Uzis, SMLZs, and Jackie Love. Why are we changing and putting them on tanks? So other teams like Snake, they're like fabulous. We get to really find a strength for ourselves through mid lane and top lane and through jungle. But a lot of these teams, they're standing firm and saying, we actually really want to get to the late game portions and back up SMLZ in this instance.
And this could actually be a game where we start to see these styles clash, because if you look over at OMG, fun fact, if you don't know this, SMLZ was the former ADC of OMG. We call Rogue Warriors the Revenge Team, and they go on the Revenge Tour because they're a team made up of veterans from other big name organizations. Edward Gaming, JD Gaming, OMG come together to make this veteranship run towards 4th place. And the thing is it was Chelly, SMLZ's replacement on OMG, that brought out the Yasuo, you know, was playing more of these bruisers, whereas SMLZ stayed true to the ADCs. So we might actually see both styles clash tonight.
Yeah, and it's only 3 times up until this point that we saw an AD carry versus a tank or just a non-AD carry in the bottom lane so far in the LPL. And it just feels like that's going to be the case for this series, because questions towards OMG was the fact that their bottom lane wasn't performing in Chelly and 5. Last set, it was Chelly and 5 that looked phenomenal on the Yasuo pick. So it looks like for OMG specifically, a lot of our eyes are in mid lane, but it seems like Chelly has really found strength in these off-meta picks.
And it's not even just Chelly. The other big name that we were talking about is that brand new piece that you spoke earlier about, which is Mountain. Formerly of the LMS, coming over from AHQ, is now one of 3 junglers that OMG have in their arsenal. And it feels like it's just been musical chairs, trying to figure out who is going to play jungle for this team and who's going to play back pocket for their star player Icon. And it seems to work with the Bandit.
Yeah, and I think what's going to be interesting is OMG should just now narrow focus on Mountain, because Mountain was an exceptional jungler in the LMS, and coming into this team where they were just finding, mixing, and matching, now losing Fire Lolly because he retired, you bring in Mountain, and it seems like your 2v2 in the mid lane should be strong. We got to see that on day 2 for the LPL when we got to see OMG versus Snake. Game 3, Mountain came on, and he performed incredibly well, so it's not a surprise that he's starting them off tonight.
So here's the thing. Now we know who the key players are. It's Doinby, it's SMLZ, and then it's Mountain, it's Icon over on the other side. So the question is, you know, how does this actually transform onto the Rift? Because the name that we haven't mentioned is Flawless. And so if we're talking about the Mountain Icon duo of OMG, you then also need to bring in the Doinby Flawless Icon for Rogue Warriors.
That's the thing, because remember last split, I had Flawless as #1 in my jungle tier list near week 7. It started to really teeter off for him, because for him, the jungle meta started to form into level 4, level 5, so he can gank as much as he wanted. Suddenly his early laning pressure didn't exist. Welcome to 8.10/8.11, where level 2, you're actually ganking a lot more frequently and a lot earlier than back then. So I think this is when Flawless is really in his meta, really in his groove. He should really pop off this time. Right?
There's also the fact that Lee Sin, I mean, we haven't seen it crop up in the meta yet, but Lee Sin is not dead. And if there is a window where if junglers are spending more time at level 2 and at level 5 and have more areas to gank, do you think Lee Sin, or excuse me, I almost used them synonymously and interchangeably. Do you think Flawless is going to reach for his Lee Sin at some point? Because he was playing it even when no one else in the meta was, and it had to be perma-banned away from it, because for the longest time he had, what, 100% win rate on the champion?
Yeah, he was actually rolling across the split and only really lost in his last few weeks versus Invictus Gaming, which that team just nearly had a perfect split regardless. So he was super confident on the Lee Sin pick. That's why you mention it. So I would expect him to actually choose more Xin Zhao, even though I think the Lee Sin is something that he could go to, because once you hit level 6, obviously you have much more playmaking potential. Xin Zhao works down his alley because suddenly he can control mid a lot more frequently and he can still pop level 6. It just makes him a lot more protected in these team fights.
Are you using words like control versus dueling? Because when I think about Lee Sin and Jin Zhao, the thing that they do share in common is that they are dueling-oriented junglers. They retain their control through their kill pressure or their dueling potential on the other jungler, versus one of these tempo junglers like the Shyvanas with the likes of the Mordekaisers. Like, which route do you think Flawless and Mountain are going to go?
Good question, because Doinb is a supportive mid laner, so really there are two ways
this could fit very well to just funnel gold into Flawless.
Yeah, so it's interesting because I think that Flawless is more catered to really skirmishing more often. So I'd love to see Xin Zhao more often. So I don't think that we're going to see that experience funneling his way unless if he gets the Graves. So I think that they're flexible enough to go both routes, so I actually don't know how OMG are going to be able to deal with this.
The versatility of Rogue Warriors, it's not something that we used to account for the team. They used to be a protect the ADC team, but you can see right now on your screen, we're live in Chengdu, and you can start to see some of OMG's beautiful arena. I know, Raz, you've been there yourself as we get a look at the lineup.
It's fabulous. The place is fabulous, and I know we're not looking at the audience, but there are a lot of them. So they have fans to back them. They have a nice looking stadium. I mean, even just going into the place, if you're relaxed, if you're looking for like some food when you're in Chengdu.
Are those booths?
They have booths now. Okay, this is sick. All right, they
Kill
just keep
the meme.
upgrading every
It's
single
dead.
time.
But fun fact about Chengdu as well is it's known as the hip hop central in China, so I feel like it's the perfect home for a team like OMG, who are known as the bad boys in the LPL.
Yeah, definitely the rock stars of the LPL. You were right about that with Icon rounding them out. So let's take a look at the team they're going up against in Rogue Warriors.
Boom, it's Mouse, Flawless, Doinb, SMLZ, and Kahlua. And again, the two carries that you want to look at this team, Doinb and SMLZ, the hyper carries themselves.
And you know there's going to be a team that's going to have to take them down. Siyang, Mountain, Icon, Chelly, and 5. And now Chelly and 5, I'm going to look at them just a little bit because I know we were talking about SMLZ and how strong he is, but if he keeps going down the route of Kog'Maw, he's going to have some problems with his Yasuo. So I know it's a little bit too early to be talking about draft, but ban out the Yasuo. I don't want to see Chelly on it. He is surprisingly good on the champion. I don't know what he's using with his time, but he's using it properly.
It's also the fact that Alistar has become a very high priority pick for teams like OMG. We've seen a couple of the other LPL teams, some LCK teams even reaching up there and grabbing that champion for the engage bruiser potential. The Alistar Mordekaiser combo comes to mind, and it's Five's signature champion. And you can see SMLZ on your screen. Cool as a cucumber. That is his one facial expression. 5 is going to want every opportunity to kill that guy.
Oh, 100%. I think what's going to be sick is that you're right about that, and that might sprout a single champion that comes to mind, which is Pyke. Now, feels like the Thresh main of
Don't swear
5,
up my heart.
I'm just saying because the man is already playing the Thresh quite frequently, and he wants to look for kill lanes more often than not with the Yasuo pick. I don't know if they're going to be playing Mordekaiser there. That we haven't just seen that from him yet, but I feel like Pyke is right down his range, and that might be a ban that comes into his direction as well.
My only concern with Pyke is that he loses a lot of 2v2s. He's very dependent on his partner. Again, with supports like Alistar and Leona, they create the zone for you, whereas Pyke is more reactive. He plays with his ADC to create the zone. He's more of a win more style of champion versus if a lane is behind, I can turn the tides.
Exactly, but I think if you have and this is the key point, when you have lane pressure suddenly with the champion, if that's a win, it's a lot more of a win more situation because suddenly you roaming is really threatening if you can just go invis. So his W is super good just to allow yourself to go mid and impact the mid lane. You want to get Icon ahead.
Now we've hit the key players, we've hit the key styles, and we've hit some of the key champions. Now Raz, from the hip, what's your prediction? OMG Rogue Warriors.
So prediction for the teams, I'm going to go in the direction of Rogue Warriors. Rogue Warriors are still a phenomenal team, top to down. OMG has to surprise me twice this week.
But here's the thing, if OMG win, how do they do it? Is it shutting down SMLZ? Is that the answer to an OMG victory?
Shutting down Doinb, I'd say, because I think their strength has always been mid-jungle, and I think they have to double down on that aspect because Icon is a really strong player, and if they can shut down Doinb, it's going to make it much harder for SMLZ.
So you're saying it's taking the strength of OMG and countering out the strength of Rogue Warriors through that mid lane.
Yep.
Okay, ultimately you've heard it from Raz. He thinks it's going to be Rogue Warriors. But before we send it over to the casters, a quick word from Mouse, RNG's, or RW's top laner.
You just heard it from Mouse. The teamwork from Rogue Warriors is something to be respected. But welcome back, everyone. Once again, my name is Dom. We've swapped out Rusty. We've got Clement in here with us for this next matchup. The second round of the Revenge Tour for Rogue Warriors. But this time, it's OMG who are looking for revenge, because we heard it a little bit more on the desk. It's not just SMLZ playing against his former team. It's OMG playing against the team that took their spot at Rift Rivals last year. The same remaining teams are going, except for OMG getting subbed out for Rogue Warriors, and now Rogue Warriors have the audacity to come into the OMG arena. Clement, this is going to be hot.
Yeah, man. If I'm OMG, I don't think it's a revenge tour. I think it's a letter where I send SMLZ and tell him, baby, don't go. Please come back. Because without SMLZ, OMG have slid down to 33% win rate in their last split, being a 6th place team in their own conference. Yeah. And of course, here we do go into the ban picks. Topping it off, we see the Talia, most banned champion currently in the LPL so far. OMG, they're trying to take away everything from Flawless. This is how much respect Flawless commands from his own mechanics and playing that Camille twice in the last series.
Yeah, and this is also what we just heard from Raz on the desk. If OMG want to take a win in this series, it's going to be through shutting down Doinby and shutting down that mid-jungle duo. Now, we've got a super early Lucian first pick. Aurelia is a huge champion, and she's just been completely glossed over by Rogue Warriors.
Well, Lucian is something I do expect to see out of Rogue Warriors, and especially SMLZ. This is the more traditional team in the LPL. They've never played with double supports. They've always played with an ADC, and Lucian is the top banned ADC and the top picked ADC at the moment. That SM Reaver really propping his strength up. Mountain, however, going back to another Cinderhall jungle, he's more known for this type of champions, has outshined Karsa in the LMS when it comes to those tanky champion plays, and he's going for the Trundle.
Yeah, we've got that Trundle now locked in for Mountain. Hopefully he'll be looking for a repeat performance from his win on it just a few days ago. But as the clock runs down, we're still looking for the next pick of OMG. They are passing over some huge priority champions elsewhere in the meta. They must clearly have a strategy lined up, as Ryze is now going to follow that up.
Now, Ryze is a very interesting pick because this is also a potential flex pick. It could go into the marksman position if they see a Vladimir, and it also can play straight up mid lane. However, I do think OMG is teasing the idea of a flex because Doinby has been so good on the Cassiopeia.
Yeah. Of course, we did see Doinby play that twice. Last time we saw Rogue Warriors. Icon did play this Ryze against Snake. This is actually the one-game loss that OMG have so far. So again, this could go to Icon, this could go to Xiang. It's surprising to see it picked so early on, considering how we expect Icon to be looking for counterpick against Doinby. Of course, that said, we've got ourselves Skarner now locked in for Flawless, excellent engage, and now a Mundo for Mouse. This is stacking up to be quite the composition from Rogue Warriors.
Yep, Rogue Warriors definitely know how they want to play the meta. It's a 5v5 meta. There's a lot of meat grinding going on, a lot of melee champions, and they're picking for that big team fight. Their front line is already complete, and if we looked at the Lucian stats, he probably is one of the only champions that can still hit consistently like a 30% damage share on his team. You don't see a lot of ADCs running around this time, and if you have someone like Lucian going into the late game, then you have your damage portion locked up.
Now, we do see 5 get to take his signature Alistar here. We heard it from the desk that 5 will be looking for revenge against his former AD carry of SMLZ. So expecting that Lucian to go to SMLZ. Again, we'll see how it shakes out as we've got the Morgana and Tom Kench, two huge champions taken away from Kahlua. We know that the biggest thing Kahlua has to do for Rogue Warriors is keep SMLZ alive at all costs. You've already got the point-and-click snare. You've already got the Pillar of Ice. You've already got the Alistar. And now with those two bans, that's just going to make it even more difficult. That said, Yasuo and Swain banned away from OMG. Looks like Rogue Warriors are expecting that Ryze to flex.
Yeah, they're definitely targeting down on Shelly's position. What we've seen from OMG so far are those non-traditional marksmen, or I wouldn't even call them marksmen actually, just more bruisers into the bot lane. They'll have Alistar and the Trundle, so Yasuo was kind of a no-brainer. And just like you said, they do want to keep SMLZ alive on Rogue Warriors' side, so taking away all the protection they can away from SMLZ.
And we're looking at what's next for OMG. Gangplank locked in.
This is a smart champion because it really punishes teams that want to go into you. If you look at Rogue Warriors, they don't have good initiation. They don't have long-range initiation, so they will have to walk in to chase their enemies down. And if you're walking into a barrel close to Baron, That's a very dangerous proposition.
Well,
and we have a Kled.
Yeah, what if it's not a walk, Clement? What if it's a full-on sprint? Kled locked in for Rogue Warriors, and a Fiddlesticks right behind it.
Oh, now
for
this
Rogue
is super
Warriors.
interesting right now. So this is actually going to be a Kled mid, I believe. And the idea behind the Kled is that he does have an unstoppable initiate. You can go straight into the enemy composition with disregarding their CC completely. We've talked about the meta having two ways to play. You either want to snipe out someone in the team fights, or you want to play on the counter engage and CC them to death. But against someone that's unstoppable and adds movement speed to his entire team, you cannot do that. However, we do have Icon's signature play coming out right here in the LeBlanc. Now, LeBlanc is one of those champions that you have to watch Icon play on it to believe it. He actually played a 1v4 last split, and it was our best play of the entire season. It's also pretty decent against the Kled. So basically what you want to do is get him off of Scarl, and then it's very easy for you to burst him down. Kled's actually very vulnerable to champions that have low cooldown CCs and high burst damage because he's very easy to kill once he's unmounted.
And of course, we'll be keeping an eye on Icon's signature LeBlanc. It's so signature, in fact, that it's on the art for the season. All we fight for is the tagline for Summer Split. Uzi and Kaisa is there in the middle, but just off to the side is Icon and that LeBlanc. So absolutely exciting to see. Oh my god, taking on Rogue Warriors in this matchup. Now, just to be clear, this is not the first time we have seen Kled in the mid lane. It has been played mid 3 times, twice by Zatai and once by Doinby in 2017. So not only is this the second time Doinby gets to take the champion in the mid lane, it was a rushdown strategy that they utilized last time against Royal Never Give Up. It was not successful, so it has not found any wins yet. But if ever there was a team, if ever there was a meta, it has to be Rogue Warriors because of how they play, because of how wild and crazy Doinby is as that mid laner going up against Icon's LeBlanc.
I really like this change from Doinby. What he's saying is that this split, he's focusing on champions that can help him roam. And that was one of the big reasons why Rogue Warriors did slide down in the previous split. It was because enemies could punish those supportive champions that Doinby likes to play, and they could keep him locked up in the mid lane. And from there, they could go and then punish SMLZ in the bot lane. This split, he's saying, I'm not taking any more of that. I'm actually going to be the one with the priority in the mid lane. We have such a good duelist jungle in Flawless. Let's make use of that. So I like this new change from Rogue Warriors.
We'll see how that works out for them as we now prepare to load onto the Rift. Flawless on that Skarner, Doinby on the Kled against the hitman of LeBlanc on the other side. Coming live out of Chengdu, we're casting here in the Shanghai Battle Arena to keep you up to date with how this match runs out. But we've got Rogue Warriors going on against OMG, who are seeking revenge against the team that took their Rift Rivals spot as we load onto the Rift for Game 1 between Rogue Warriors and OMG. Wow. The Rogue Warriors fans giving the OMG guys a run for their money, but we have a skirmish very early on. Mountain steps into the river and Doinby gets the bear trap on the rope, the flash, and a stun. They found Xiong, and that's going to be first blood as it's picked up by Mouse.
Absolute disaster for OMG. They lose 2 flashes early on, and my big problem was that they did not have any abilities that could check brushers. Like, the Tornado is not going to take a pillar level 1, and they just kind of walked into it. It was trying to prevent the invade from Rogue Warriors, but they went in too far in a defensive posture.
Yeah, almost a straight read from Rogue Warriors as 4, forcing out 2 flashes and finding that kill. Flawless landing the stun as they track the cooldowns. And that is a great start off for Rogue Warriors in this game. We'll have to see if that continues to transition into a successful laning phase, as Mouse won't get the chance to recall and spend that gold just yet. Xiong making his way out of base with that corrupting potion. Might miss a few CS, it still should be pretty close. Already it looks like we do have a bit of a pause.
Yeah, I was really confused right there seeing Killua actually back off. Usually in this meta, usually in this matchup, you want to punish the Alistar as hard as possible at level 1. So I'm pretty willing to bet that it's something wrong with Killua's computer here.
We're going to find out, of course, as we try to keep an eye on that laning phase. Already you can see OMG
what are you laughing
smiling
about?
and laughing. Mountain making his way onto the roster for his second game with the new team.
Guys, this is actually a real game. You can't remake off of that. You lost 2 flashes.
Yeah, we've already got point of game with First Blood. So it is not quite possible for the remake. Of course, though, we'll keep you updated as to how this shakes out. The technical difficulties should be resolved, hopefully, very shortly. And it looks like it's actually Doinby there in that mid lane. Of course, we're keeping tabs on that. Icon on the far side now keeping across from him on his signature LeBlanc. Now, it's important to note, Icon is the hitman. He is the guy who has made a name for himself, single-handedly killing almost every other mid laner in the LPL at least once, if not twice, and then styling when he does it. He doesn't just kill you. He kills you, takes the extra turret shot when he doesn't need to, and then emotes on top of your dead body.
Pretty much. I think Icon is the most beautiful distraction in the LPL.
Yes.
Like, he has incredibly flashy plays, high mechanical ceilings. We were watching the game versus Snake that happened earlier this week, and he dodged 4 skill shots from SOFM and Guoguo in 2 seconds. Yeah. I was like, oh my god, that footwork is he's one of those players that it's so fun watching him, but the reason that he hasn't been able to transfer his own mechanical success into a team success is because there isn't another big carry backing him up.
Yeah.
Shelly really hasn't filled up that role, and without SMLZ on the roster, it just feels like OMG are still missing something. If we go over to SMLZ's side, however, he's actually been doing incredibly well on Rogue Warriors. The one big stat I want to note is that his CSD at 15 has actually improved by 17.
Holy cow.
Just swapping teams. So that took him from like a very mediocre marksman to oozy levels of dominance. And the real reason why Rogue Warriors has fit him so well is because of the better early game. Kahlua probably a mechanical rung above 5, and also flawless, controlling the jungle much better than any of the junglers on OMG have ever done. So he's actually starting out with the lead in early game, and we call him the hyper carry.
Yeah.
So that hyper carry is coming in
Suddenly
much sooner.
Springboarded ahead that much more. Certainly creates a lot of threat for Shelly and 5 in that bottom lane, but they're still running pretty happily down there as they do have that Alistar and the Rise as well to try and force that lane back out. But we'll keep an eye on that matchup as it plays out, because there's still a lot of factors that could interact and change with that. You know, we saw Gieko play against Snake. He went 1-1, and then Mountain came in and absolutely smashed Snake and took the series for OMG. Because this is the summer split, we're starting to see how these teams reform themselves. We're looking to see how OMG utilize Mountain to change that. Can Mountain provide that additional carry threat with Icon that opens up so many more options for OMG?
And here's a short introduction to who Mountain is. He came from AHQ. He was actually one of the mentors for Karsa. Karsa started out, when Karsa started playing, Mountain has already been around for 2 or 3 years. So when we talked about Karsa, he has very high opinions of Mountain. He's actually learned a lot from his pathing. And Mountain's the guy that I've said publicly that I've always felt he's had even higher highs than Karsa. Sure, he's very inconsistent in those big moments. I do think he has a bit of emotional instability. But when you look at the regular season, when you see him on the Cinder Hulk metas, he definitely is a stronger jungler than even Karsa. We call him the bandit in the LMS, and he's known for stealing buffs away from the enemy team. He actually has the most buff steals of any jungler in the LMS for a long period of time, for multiple seasons, going on and on. So what we want to see from Mountain on OMG is to see an aggressive jungler that likes to gank more. That's something that OMG has always lacked. They have very strong solo laners in the top lane in Xiang, and also, of course, in Icon, like we've mentioned. But they've never had a jungler that can consistently set those lanes up and snowball the game from there. So a lot of times what you see from OMG games is that they have great individual lanes, they're winning 2 of their lanes at 10 minutes, and then it kind of goes nowhere.
Yeah, and that's sort of where we have to look at the push and pull. If I expect a gank from my jungler, I should have some sort of lane control so that when he invades, I can back him up. And this is where we look to the communication of the new team to be gelling in this summer split, and towards Mountain's experience to be able to keep track of his lanes, whether or not they can support him if he looks for any sorts of invades. Now, I just want to give you a quick update. Doinby did request a pause for a peripheral issue, so we're going to make sure that it's all set, it's all ready to go. Again, OMG in the Chengdu Arena. should be keeping their peripherals on top of that, or the Rogue Warriors should be bringing them with them. So hopefully everything should just be as easy as plug and play, check the mouse, make sure the drivers are updated.
The fan signs are just amazing. There's so many people cheering for OMG, and of course specifically for Icon. The sign there just said, "Take it easy, Icon. I will always love you."
Yes. Always the fan support. As we know, OMG have a massive fan base, one of the oldest teams in the LPL.
We'll disregard these.
Yeah.
Those are RNG signs. So
it's almost like RNG has taken the role of the TSM chants at this point. Yeah, we've had them in the Shanghai Arena as well. I think even on Monday we had the 2-team chants and then RNG chants afterwards.
I think the guy that usually does the TSM chants, he needs to be fair. Now TSM has been defeated. He needs to do the clutch gaming chants.
I mean, that being said, TSM are pretty consistently defeated. So why are you still doing the TSM chants in the first place?
I mean, if you think they're the best team in the world, the best team now should be clutch gaming. You should be like going for those Houston
kind of like,
Rockets, you know? Yeah.
The last Survivor style. And then whoever beats clutch gaming.
King of the Hill.
Yeah,
King of the Hill
that's
style,
the one. That's
basically.
the one. So I guess it makes sense right now that he's doing RNG chants, because RNG are the best in the world after their win in MSI.
Yeah, pretty much.
At least until we're going to be proven wrong at Worlds.
Okay, that's a touchy subject. I know the analyst desk is probably going to blast me for that, but I really think it's hard taking a championship away from someone on their home turf. And the reason it's hard is because it's much harder to isolate teams. And what you want to do and how you want to win against the LCK in the World Championships is you want to kill one team in group stages, and you want to take down one team in quarterfinals and make sure they don't have any scrim partners going forward. If you look at the record for Worlds and moving forward, teams that scrim together die together.
Yes.
So you want to isolate them, but it's so hard to isolate them on their own turf. Like if you're Kingzone, you go to one of these Korean teams and say, "Hey, the pride of Korea is on the line. Please scrim with me." No one's going to turn you down.
Yeah.
It's impossible.
Yes.
Yeah, but
it's actually kind of funny that you bring that up, because with Rift Rivals coming up in just a few weeks,
Yeah.
we actually saw that disconnect out of the LCK teams. They weren't exactly playing on the same page, whereas RNG and the rest of the Chinese teams were staying out in the parking lot until 3 in the morning the day of the games, practicing their pick and ban, practicing their strategies.
And this is something that I think our region can be proud about, because we've come together in terms of the coaching staff.
Yeah.
If you think about MSI, they also had a bunch of coaches come together and think up strategies for RNG. They did that again. They did that previously at Rift Rivals as well, and I do expect they will do it next month as well.
Well, now the waves have finished, or I suppose resolved at this point. And level 2 picked up by all 4 down there. SMLZ steps up. Kilo is actually playing very far back. I think he's trying to play a more protection and bounce style against Chelian 5, more denying the level 2 all-in. Mountain's on this side of the map as well with a very early level 2.
Yep, what we're seeing from the Fiddlesticks lane is that he's very easy to execute a pushing strategy. He will keep the enemy underneath their towers and really open up that side of the map for invades, and that's kind of why you want to pick Fiddlesticks as a champion.
Now, it's actually interesting that you mentioned that this bottom lane from Rogue Warriors is going to take some lane control here, because Flawless is on the other side of the map. He started red Raptors and is now at blue buff, so it might even be that Flawless wants to set up Mouse at least to level 4 or 5 by hanging out on that top side of the map.
They want to
heading bottom?
They want to make life for Xiang miserable. He doesn't have a flash. He knows that the jungler is around this position.
Ooh, that's Ignite as well.
Down.
SMLZ flashes back the auto attack, and he goes down. That's not first blood because we got it earlier. But Kilo is still stepping up. He's about to eat a stun here as Mountain lands the Pillar of Filth and should be walking up. Minions are actually doing a lot, but there's the chomp. Mountain gets a kill, and Rogue Warriors bottom lane makes a huge mistake.
Yeah, I think SMLZ miscalculated. He was running teleport, no heal to be found, and once that all-in came in from Shelly and 5, that was pretty much lights out incredibly fast, because he used his E to go on the offensive. He had no way to back out.
Outside of the flash, but a lot of good that's going to do you against an Alistar. And that's what we just saw now in that bottom lane, and tragically, that does mean that Rogue Warriors bottom lane will now find themselves suffering a little bit. Shelly is going to get enough for the recall with those 2 assists to pick himself up a tier. We've also got 5 getting some boots as Flawless just outside of vision. Xiang, he's right on top of the barrel. Mouse steps up, but the barrel lands. There's a follow-up.
Oh, misses the slope.
Ooh, Flawless.
Wow, that was actually a huge mistake right there. I'm not sure if Xiang still had his oranges on hand, but they should have been able to put more damage on him at the very least.
That said, though, that wave is still pushing away from Xiang, and he still doesn't have flash back from that first blood that Rogue Warriors were able to pick up. So it could be more opportunity for Flawless to return to that side of the map, but like you said, that bottom half could be prioritized a little bit more from him. It's really such a difficult decision to make right now because Mountain is invading into the jungle, 5 is starting to press up and deny vision.
And he's doing that because the bottom side of the map is completely losing. The bot lane's already down, and if you look at the mid lane, Kled can't get the damage onto the LeBlanc. They're going for another kill here, no flash.
Killua flashes away, just to be safe, as that was Icon with a very fast roam on that LeBlanc. Predator actually utilizes the Dark Wind, bounces a lot. Again, missing the slow and the Pillar of Filth from Mountain to disengage. OMG are playing around Rogue Warriors remarkably well.
Yeah, they really can't contest on this side of the map anymore. And if you look at Doinby's champion in the Kled, I don't think it's going to have the effect until much later on the game. Right now, he's pretty much getting bullied in lane. LeBlanc has more lane control just because of the damage consistently that she can put onto Kled compared to vice versa. And I think Mountain is playing off that very well. This is what Mountain is kind of known for. If you give him a lead in terms of the mid lane, then he will snowball that into the jungle very consistently.
Scary thing is that mid lane is Icon's LeBlanc, and take a look at that first item, Sork Boots. For increased mobility and magic penetration, Icon wants to get out of this mid lane and affect other sides of the map as Doinby somehow makes his way over to the blue buff. Just looking for some vision, maybe trying to chase Mountain out, trying to reclaim some control on this bottom half of the map as SMLZ and Killua trying to recover after that disastrous mistake, giving up those first 2 kills.
It's actually very difficult for OMG's 2v2 to fight against Rogue Warriors. If you look at the skill combinations, basically Fiddle can use that Crow Storm to, not the Crow Storm, the E to silence everyone, and there's not a lot coming out from the other side. It opens a lot of free trading opportunities for the Lucian to stick damage onto it. The first kill, of course, was a massive mistake coming out from SMLZ, but otherwise, the lane from Rogue Warriors should be quite dominant.
We'll definitely keep an eye on that, as that's the Cannon Barrage utilized by Xiang. Mouse still holding on to his sadism and that masochism too, as he's just trading back against Xiang, trying to control this wave against the inevitable late game power of that Gangplank. I
like what both of these top laners are doing right there. There's no reason you use your ult there unless you're looking for a kill into the top lane. So Mouse senses this, and the first thing he does is he sets up vision to make sure that really doesn't happen. Because you're sitting top lane as a Mundo, you don't have your sadism and you don't have your flash, and the Gangplank is now controlling the wave. So you definitely have the hairs on the back of your neck sticking up.
Yes. Especially when it's Mountain, of all people. 5 actually going for a roam towards the mid lane, looking for Doinby. He's got flash, but is caught by 1 stun. No, pinned against the wall, actually, as the Merc treads first, denies the full duration.
What's important about this gank is the angle that he's coming from. When you're trying to deal with the Kled, the best way to kill him is actually to gank from behind, because he can escape otherwise using his unstoppable on the charge.
Charge to chase people down. Always a good strategy, but still
Nimbus Cloak.
Constant roaming out of OMG. Like you said, the Nimbus Cloak out of Killua, along with Celerity. And we did see the Fiddlesticks a little bit earlier, so it's no surprise that we're seeing it once again here. But look at this. Flawless with the Predator. Flash engaged. They're going for the level 6. Even Doinby is charging in, but he's actually caught elsewhere. Must have tagged onto Mountain or Icon.
Yep, ran into the Mountain right there. That was amazing timing from Rogue Warriors' side. The 2 things that we mentioned before, the guaranteed lane push and also the early flash out from Chelly, really helping out on that gank. And this is something that I feel like Rogue Warriors does so well, is that they play around their bot lane summoners incredibly precisely, and they're usually able to snowball SMLZ even if he starts the game with the bad trade.
Yes, trading over those first 2 kills. Now, something that seems to be really important in this game is bottom river control. We've seen Mountain constantly stepping in, usually backed up with Icon and 5, to clear out some of this vision from Rogue Warriors, to try and clear out some control. But the one moment their vision and their control lapsed, Doinby was there with the charge. Flawless had walked in through the lane and was able to get that dive onto Chelly. It seems like that could be a hot spot as Mouse and Xiang just continue to farm it out elsewhere.
Yeah, I actually think Fiddlesticks is a fairly good counter against the Rise. You would call him the machine gun mage, but if he's silenced, he's really not outputting much damage compared to the traditional marksman. So I think it's a really smart pick to go into the Rise, even into the later late game. And this is kind of why the traditional marksman compositions are still being played quite often in the LPL. You do get lane control in the bot lane. You are a ranged champion. It's easier for you to hit minions. And with someone like Lucian, who is the most played marksman here, you actually do have decent wave clear as well to back it up.
That's always the question, though, is what does that lane control get you? Is it just Scuttle Crab? Is it Dragons? So far, it's that first kill onto SMLZ.
Yeah, it's great setup kill with the Skarner. There's no way you can control both rushes if the enemy bot lane is consistently pushing up. So they're making good use of that. Of course, Shelly does now have his flash up, but they can try to continue this trend to snowball.
Still, though, just passively farming down in that mid lane whenever the jungler isn't nearby. Mountain constantly maneuvering around the map, as that's the Crow Storm. I was going to say passive, but I was wrong, Clement. I was very wrong. 5 chasing SMLZ. Icon. It's coming in from the side, but here's Flawless as he chases up. SMLZ flash, dash, but he's stalled out by the Pillar of Filth. Jump is ready, but SMLZ is still alive. Icon catches up. Doimdi is going to try to follow through, but doesn't have his charge off cooldown, and Icon will escape.
Really good play from Kahlua to start the fight off. Disables Alistar and denies him the instant push off from the Crow Storm, and he's able to use that Nimbus Cloak with the 100 extra move speed to really lock down on Shelly.
Oh, and they found Killua. Icon going over the wall, and Icon has found another one. Now they've lost 2 critical members. Doimbi is forced to charge away from the onslaught of OMG.
You definitely still get the movement speed from that. But overall, I would say this fight actually goes to OMG much heavier than Rogue Warriors. Even though with the initial kill going over to Kahlua, OMG now has a snowballed LeBlanc. And this is the terrifying thing about this meta. LeBlanc is back to her old set of abilities. She can do burst damage much more in an upfront fashion now. So we've seen Rookie play this champion already, and once she gets going, there's no stopping her, especially with a very fragile support like Fiddlesticks.
Especially when it's a player like Icon, who is known specifically for this champion. Of all of the ones that he plays, it's LeBlanc and it's Ahri that have huge names for him. But now he's got 2 kills. Recall should be finishing off right here. Let's see what he decides to go for. Continuing to round out that build. This is not completed just yet. Mouse is actually way out of position. Mountain catches him. Not entirely certain how Mouse got there or why. Looks like he was proxying, yeah. But maybe not the best time to do that.
Yeah, I actually think there's no way out for him. If Icon's willing to go up there and pick up the kill, then she should just be dead.
Well, Icon actually did just complete the recall and pick up an Oblivion Orb.
Yep. It always gets me really frustrated because the Oblivion Orb actually does not build into Spellbinders.
Yep.
They're both orbs on spindles, but they don't build into each other. That's like, I don't know,
it's just wacky build paths.
So that is a Morellonomicon,
to be completely fair, items don't necessarily make sense in League of Legends. We have cloaks, we have armor. We used to have a poncho, but we got rid of it. We have boots, but the one item we don't have is pants. There is no single pair of pants that you can buy in League of Legends.
Bring your own.
Yeah, apparently. That's the important thing. Unless your name is Mundo, then you're in trouble.
BYOP, that's what the party is about. But
exactly.
Yeah, just hinting on the fact that we are seeing the double magic penetration build coming out from Icon, of course, building into the Morellonomicon, which is going to work wonders against the Mundo in the top lane.
Yeah, just getting additional shred on top of that. And of course, that Spirit Visage so important for Mouse to build if he wants to survive against Icon down in that bottom lane. As you could see, Xiang, he's feeling pretty happy about himself. He managed to catch his top laner in a really weird position, and he's been happily farming on that gangplank.
Yeah, Xiang's actually been doing fairly well in this lane, considering that he lost his first flash within like 90 seconds of the game. So he's been dealing with it pretty in a suitable manner, and he's also gotten the assists in the bot lane as well. So just to talk about Gangplank's role on the teamfight composition a little bit more, we are seeing this composition from OMG that's very strong on preventing the enemy team from coming into their backline, basically. They do have the pillar to stop people. They do have the cannon barrage and the barrels to set up traps from people.
Yeah.
And if they can just kind of hold their ground and stand afar and throw out all of their damage, especially from the Rise late game, then they do have a very good composition. On the other hand, we are seeing the Russian comp from Rogue Warriors. They have a lot of abilities to just jump straight
Charge
onto
forward.
you.
The dog pile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So It is. I like these type of team fights because they're contrasting styles.
That being said, though, who does Rogue Warriors look to dogpile on top of? Traditionally, you would say the AD carry, but it's Trundle, Ryze, Alistar. Trundle just uses the pillar and walks away. Alistar gets tanky and impossible to kill, and then a LeBlanc in the mid lane. And you are never going to pin down Icon unless you just outplay him.
Yeah, I do think the primary target is still going to be the Ryze. Ryze doesn't have the longest attack range out of these champions, and he does need to stay a bit more in danger to really get most of his output out. So that would be the primary target I'd see. But instead from rushing in directly, they also have the sneaky flank coming in from Fiddlesticks as well. However, Fiddlesticks isn't as good in professional play as he is in solo queue play, and there's a very good reason for that. It's much harder to surprise people with the vision control coming out from professional players here. So if they want to make use of that, they actually do need to take control of one side of the jungle in order for that Fiddlesticks surprise party to happen.
Of course, that will require some more onus from Flawless to continue to control the river, maneuver around the map as he has been doing, plus some more coordination from Killua to actually support and follow up on that. And while we keep on mentioning the Lucian Fiddlesticks should have lane control that should enable the option for Fiddlesticks to maneuver around, almost all of the skirmishes, I believe actually all of them, have been in the mid lane, that bottom jungle, and the bottom lane itself outside of that first blood. And knowing that, how can you unlock your Fiddlesticks when you're constantly fighting, when you're constantly skirmishing over vision, or looking for the Doinby roam, or looking for the Icon roam?
I'm glad you asked that, because this meta is really about the first big team fight. What we've seen over and over again this week is that if you win the big first brawl, then you're the one that gets control over Dragon. You're the one that can push into the enemy jungle and start taking vision control away as well. But so far, we really haven't seen that first big fight come out. People have been able to pretty much like step away with several casualties here and there. And this is something that I want to talk about because it's also a big reason why marksmen, traditional marksmen at least, have been disappearing in the meta. Because their item spike, their team fight readiness comes so late into the game. They need that 2 items, the Zeal item and the IE item. But what we're seeing from the new breed of AD carries, even if they do appear, are they're using 1 item spikes. They're using the Blade of the Ruin King like SMLZ is doing this game, and they're also using the Storm Razors to play like the Draven. And that's really the kind of the key goal you have to understand about the meta and the picks that are happening in the bot lane. And there's something I do want to mention.
Yes.
It is the Spellbinder's Vladimir. And that really exemplifies what we have. If you think about his first item spike, 2,900 gold, compare that to a Zeal item. Your first Zeal item, you have 35% attack speed and 30% crit, and you compare that to Spellbinders on Vladimir when he's fully stacked, he gets 200 AP, 280 HP, and he also gets 50% movement speed. So if you think about that lens, from the lens of the first team fight, that's a complete unbalance, and there's almost zero reason that you want to run a crit ADC.
And to be clear, that's why you're alluding to the fact that we are seeing Vladimir's instead of AD carries, because when you compare the impact that the two have in that first team fight at a 1 item spike, that's why we see the Darius in the mid lane. That's why we see the Aurelia able to pop up and have massive impact very early on. Though we are still seeing Rogue Warriors stick with an AD carry-centric style. They played Draven, they played Kog'Maw, now we've got Lucian, which seems to fit a little bit closer to the meta, but still might be a bit of a disconnect from how the rest of the LPL is playing that very strong first team fight-centric style.
Definitely. There's pros and cons to playing ADCs in this matchup. I think the first one is that it's actually very hard to keep ADCs alive in general now. If you think about the jungle picks, they're all about early ganking pressure. The Xin Zhaos, the Camille's as well coming out. And even Lucian, even though he does have range as a marksman, he's very easy to kill in a team fight. He has a 500
We've already seen
range.
that,
Yeah.
Icon just chasing him down over it was a flash, the dash, and then walking away, and Icon still was just able to double distort Q chain, Sigil of Malice, and Ethereal Chains and still get the kill.
So my question for Rogue Warriors is, sure, you can play this marksman-centric type of style, but how are you actually going to protect your ADCs in this meta? It's actually incredibly difficult to do.
And perhaps that's where we see a bit of scouting from OMG coming in handy. The double support ban, taking away the Morgana, taking away the Thompson.
Exactly.
That has been Killua's #1 priority since he joined the LPL as a sub to SMLZ, because SMLZ, we call him the Chinese sniper. He lines up the shot, and once it's lined up, there's no getting out of his sights. He is able to take an excellent shot and pick up some huge late game kills and have maximum impact for his team. That said, while he's lining it up, it becomes really, really scary. So perhaps that's why we see the LeBlanc, the double support ban, to further target that out. But Rogue Warrior's answer wasn't protect Doinby more, it was all in more. We've got the Kled, we've got the Fiddlesticks, we've got the Skarner.
And this is such an interesting trend from them, because we've seen this with LPL teams. If they figure out they can't actually protect the AD carry, they're very willing to build more distractions into their composition. If you think about WE the last time around, the time that they went to MSI and did so well, it was on the Kled top lane, playing something different, going forward, instead of staying back and trying to hold on to the AD carry's hand. And this is, I think, well, like you said, like you put it very eloquently, Rogue Warrior's answer to still playing the ADC. We're going to go forward instead of back.
Very interesting choice, but still so much has been built into OMG's composition that allow them to kite back. They've got that Trundle, they've got the Alistar, even the Gangplank Cannon Barrage providing a slow that you'll have to walk through if you want to chase them. But so far, OMG are matching Rogue Warriors' aggression head-to-head. We haven't seen that huge team fight yet. We're still going to keep our eye on it. To update you folks on at home as to what's happening with the pause, we are swapping out one of the players' computers.
Oh, I thought you were swapping out one of the players. Oh, this is the first.
We're not swapping out one of the players. We're doing a live hot swap.
Okay.
We're just going to pull the player off stage, get another one right back in there, and try to get that resolved as quickly as we can.
Yeah. So we have a bit of time to kill. I want to talk to you about who you think is actually the second best AD carry behind Uzi in the LPL. Because I do have my sights on SMLZ. My vote does go to him. He has been playing behind Uzi at the start of his career and really observing the master play. But I think it's a really cool discussion about how many good talents we have on this position.
I mean, I'd love to tell you my opinion, but I think we've got a bit of an analyst desk to break it down. So, gentlemen and lady, why don't you tell us who you think the second best AD carry is?
And a lady.
Don't worry, I'm about to, and I have a very strong opinion on this. I don't actually think it's SMLZ. I think it's iBoy.
Okay, oh, there we have it. Well, yeah, there we go.
And the reason why is because I don't think SMLZ has been as versatile in his career. So the thing about iBoy versus SMLZ is, Clement's correct. SMLZ has played for a very long time. Disappearing for a portion of it when he was moved down into the LSPL, but then coming back into the LPL. And over the course of his career, he hasn't been, very flexible in his style and his champion pool. He's always kind of been this very heavy resource ADC, whereas iBoy kind of straight off the bat, in much less time, picked up his first title, something that SMLZ has yet to acquire, and then has also showcased both propensity for playing team fights, for playing lane phase, for playing hyper carries, and for playing early game champion. So to me, SMLZ is closer to like a Forgiven. He's been very dominant, been around for a very long time, obviously a huge respected piece, but iBoy is much closer to, I think, Uzi's mantle. In fact, went through Uzi to pick up his first title.
Yeah, it's interesting though, because for iBoy, for him, he hasn't done the dirty work that SMLZ done. SMLZ has come in there and he's found on team after team after team. The one that I remember pretty vividly would be Masters 3, because that one was where you look to it and you say, well, SMLZ...
Condi was on that team too.
Exactly. And it was like, at the time it was like, he is the star player for this team. I mean, look, sure, there's Dade there, but a lot of the idea was...
Did you just gloss over Dade?
I mean,
you're
at
like,
the time,
Condi's on the team,
stuff.
Dade's on the team, SMLZ, but SMLZ was the carry.
Yes, because Dade was just... That's a long story.
I'm not blaming you.
But I will say that SMLZ went through the dirt just because he was a player that could be on these teams that weren't performing, but you could see why he was still being valued, because he would still put up incredible numbers. Well, iBoy, his career has started and is, of course, just started, but it's been on EDG throughout. So a lot of people won't give him that respect until he's really put on a team that he's now challenged to really perform on, when he's literally on his back's against the wall.
But Raz, you didn't answer the question.
Okay. I'm giving it to SMLZ.
Oh
it's
my
difficult,
god.
man. It's
These
difficult.
traitors.
It's hard. It's hard.
Is it hard? If you asked Uzi, the best ADC player in the world, he has never once said SMLZ. He says Jackie Love, actually.
Yeah, that's true. That's fair.
So we're both wrong. Uzi has spoken, but I can see there's a conversation. As Clement was saying, it's an interesting discussion because it showcases the depth of talent that the LPL still has. Now, that said, I do need to update our viewers because the Chrono Break will be happening. So what happened on stage, it was a computer issue, a computer freeze. So we're changing systems right now, and because of the impact on the game, we will be Chrono Breaking back to 12 minutes.
And it doesn't take that long. I remember I was a part of a test for a Chrono Break, and I was literally just sitting on that PC and I was like,
You've been a test for a lot of things.
You know what? Sure.
Rift Herald.
I don't want to hear it. So anyways, just before we get into that. But yeah, it's pretty quick, it's pretty swift, and it's a cool experience, but I guess it's not so much for the players. But it's interesting to see that we get to go back to that situation. Now, a lot about the game, and I would love to talk about this one just before we toss it back to the casters, is that
nice hard advance. You're like, get me away from that Rift Herald.
Get me away from that
Let's
play.
talk about champion select.
We had nothing to do. That was the Renegades doing the Rift Herald.
It's all good.
By the way. Anyways.
You were in that game.
Yes, we were. So, in this game, a lot of the plays are happening through bottom lane. It's fun that the whole discussion about AD carries is pretty much happening in this lane itself, just because SMLZ goes for a kill and obviously gets swiped as well.
We said that 5 was going to grab his key pick of Alistar. That's exactly what happened. And we said that 5 was going to kill SMLZ. He feels personally betrayed. And what happened?
Yeah.
He immediately just bitch slapped the guy for a level 1.
Yep. Yes, he did, Frosk. And the moment he sees him proccing passive, gets the press the attack off, he's like, you can't do that. What do you think you're doing? Headbutt, pulverize, and I'm going to get you. So that's exactly what happened in that situation. It's nice to see that 5 is just finger on the trigger. He just goes right for it.
Yeah, showcasing that OMG still do have some fire left in their bot lane. But I know that one of the picks that we really wanted to focus in on was the Kled pick.
Yes.
Now, Doinby has played Kled in the mid lane before. So, again, we talked about this. Doinby known for having a very interesting and unique champion pool. He's reached for some of these, key pieces that you might not normally see. But Raz, can I get your expert opinion on what the hell is Kled doing in this composition? Like, how does it help?
Competitively, I mean, or at least with this composition.
Yeah, he's got a Mundo, he's got a Fiddlesticks. I may be softballing you some of the answers, but he's got a Mundo and a Fiddlesticks.
Look, Aaron's going to answer it anyways, okay? You don't have to.
I'm waiting.
So I'm telling you right now, just based off of the bottom lane plays that we already saw, Fiddlesticks is fantastic, just being able to get the ulti across. Nice follow-up with Fiddle, and if the TP comes across, it's just a good all-in composition. You could start off anything. I would say the Skarner is a good point to start that off of. So this comp is pretty, I'm going to say brain dead, but it's pretty straightforward. It's a straightforward composition, so that's what I like about it. I think through the laning phase, because remember, Kled came out first from Doinby as a laning phase counter to a lot of the picks that were coming up. It was a Zir at the time, and so this time around, he saw the rise, and I thought that he thinks he can go straight into it. LeBlanc is much safer, though. That's my problem with it.
Oh, cool. We are going to go ahead and talk it back to the casters because we're ready to go.
Thank you so much. And Uzi says it's Jackie Love. Of all of the second mid laners, look, it's a conversation that we'll have to have another time, but we'll definitely have to talk about it because we're back into the game. Chrono Break successful. And Mouse, would you look at that? He is not out of position this time.
So that's interesting. I think what happened was that he accidentally proxy farmed because his computer was going haywire.
That could have been it. That very well could be, as Rift Herald is activated into the mid lane. Rogue Warriors taking perhaps advantage of the pause as they group up in the mid lane, and immediately another one as Icons turn around like, wait, what is going on? He actually completed a recall.
Yeah, that's
that might not have been intentional. It could be.
We did a Chrono Break back in time. Riot has actually invented time travel, by the way.
Yep.
So basically what happened was
this game has already happened. You're correct.
Yeah. The Mundo ult and the top lane chase did not happen. They went back to their original positions. But I'm actually kind of confused why LeBlanc is sitting back in base and Icon is standing there. So that might be the reason that they're going back to revisit the scenario. And I just want to go back and touch about the Uzi saying Jackie Love is the second best AD carry
All
in
right,
the LPL.
we have the time now.
Like, Uzi is so good
that
he actually doesn't remember the names of a lot
of
of
the people that he's playing
against.
against.
Yeah, he's like, I had an interview with him, and he just said, who's that
one
carries are good.
Oh yeah, who's that one on IG?
Oh yeah, he's like, the one on IG. Yeah, that one's I think decent. I think he measured somewhat close to me. But here's my case for SMLZ. you're being put in a super close situation. Team fight to win the game, and your front line is dead. You only have one marksman and a support left. Who do you want in that position? And my answer is you want SMLZ over iBoy. Because iBoy actually has kind of failed a couple of times in those tight situations. We've seen it at Worlds.
The Worlds Faker Chase.
Yep, and we've seen it at Demacia Cup as well. But I will say that iBoy is a much younger player. He has much more time to grow up. So maybe in the future, maybe Frost.
Yeah.
But for now, SMLZ is my second best. And Reckless says is that well.
That being said, Jackie Love is very young as well. This is his second split here in the LPL. Yeah. So maybe we could see some more changes. Maybe Uzi's prediction could come true as we're trying to get this pause resolved as quickly as possible. Again, we apologize for the technical delays as best we can. After all, we've got difficulties that happen all the time. But it's good to see that the fans are still cheering along for the teams here. OMG didn't exactly have a great split in spring, but to see the arena still fill up like this bodes well.
Yeah, I do want to give a bit of historical context on OMG, their fan base, and what they're trying to promote as their banner. They're basically equating themselves to the good guys, the good faction in the Warring Kingdoms. Now, Chengdu is a very old historical city, and it is a city where the Emperor of the Han Dynasty, their descendants went to stave out the eventual takeover by Cao Cao. So they're putting themselves as the good guys. Their slogan is 血战到底. We'll fight we'll fight to the last.
Yes.
Yeah. Even if we're bloodied, even if it's very hard, we'll stand here, we'll fight to the very end.
And it's almost funny that they're now pointing themselves as the good guys of the LPL, because historically, they've been the bad boys. They've been the ones who, with Icon in the mid lane,
the bad
and SMLZ as well. And now they've lost SMLZ, and now they're the good guys. Maybe a bit of a statement.
All right, I think you're getting things confused. The bad boys thing, that's just a fashion statement.
Oh, okay,
if you look at their tattoos and
so they're
stuff
good
like that,
bad boys?
Yeah, yeah.
Or are they bad good boys?
They're good-looking good people, but they're good-looking in a bad way.
Yes.
That's
the one. Good-looking in a bad way. I like it. But still, they're doing quite a lot for themselves. Of course, Rogue Warriors, one of the newest teams here in the LPL, joining us in spring. Their opponents making just as loud a statement behind SMLZ, Doinby. They are showing themselves up to be the team of friends, the team that actually jokes and laughs in the middle of the game, smiling and having a great time. You're looking confused right now. Rogue Warriors.
SMLZ's on the team. That doesn't make sense. SMLZ actually never smiles. He has no facial expression, and we actually sarcastically call him Smiles if you spell it out. What SMLZ's name in Chinese actually means is that it means the old thief.
Hey.
Yeah, so he's it's a very Swain-like type of name. You're thinking about an old tactician that's always taking advantage of you, making schemes and planning ahead. That's what the name kind of infers to.
Okay, well, of course, knowing the rest of his team there behind him, perhaps they could help the old thief commit just a few more burglaries. Maybe steal away the LPL Summer Split trophy if they get the opportunity, or perhaps even look towards Rift Rivals and maybe even beyond, because this team, after their finish in Spring Split, could have their eyes on that second or even third world spot if they don't take the Summer Split themselves. This is a team that very well could go into the gauntlet. They were heavy favorites in the Spring Split. As we got towards the latter half of the season, they started to taper off a bit.
So for me right now, I'm going to go out on a limb and say I think RNG is going to be the #1 at the end of this, at the end of Summer Split. I think IG is going to follow up, and then I believe we will see Rogue Warriors come out on top, but I'm not feeling super strong on that statement. I do think it's these three teams that will represent China in 2018.
Of course, that's still quite a ways to go. We just got out of MSI. We're still in week 1 of the Summer Split of 10. Plus Rift Rivals in between, plus playoffs, plus all that time before Worlds, so still plenty of time for us to continue to spout out that China is the best in the world right now, that the LPL is the best region.
Definitely. I do want to touch on what Rogue Warriors' troubles kind of are, and how we've seen them. Their biggest weakness is they don't have a good answer to split push at all. They're a very 5v5 focused team. They group up a lot, and they have a blue-collar top laner in Mouse in the top lane. And this term, the blue-collar top laner, is actually used quite often in terms of the LPL casting on the Mandarin side. It's used to basically describe a person that plays tanks, plays for the team, and he's not going to really hold up to people like the Shy or Xiao L, who's going to take a bruiser into that top lane. You don't expect them to be able to contain that lane in the future. So if they're going to go up against a team like IG, it's going to be very difficult. Or even if they go up against a team like SNG, who have a split pusher in Xiao L, I think that's where you're going to see a lot of trouble coming out from Rogue Warriors, and that's something that they need to fix.
It almost seems like the best version of Rogue Warriors that we've seen is when we get to see Doinby on a champion that can roam like the Ryze, or perhaps even the Scion in the mid lane, where he can affect multiple areas of the map. And the rest of the team is able to play a bit of a more open strategy, with Doinby collapsing in from one side, Mouse collapsing in from the other, and then suddenly you get the surprise 5-man dogpile. Whereas with the current lineup for Rogue Warriors, the current team that we see them running in this game against OMG, you see that dogpile coming from a mile away. Heck, you even hear it. Kled starts saying charge, and you just scatter and try to escape that as best you can. So maybe we could see Rogue Warriors return to that smile. Maybe we could see something a little bit different, of course, because we still have to figure out what's going on with the delay here. We're going to toss it back to the casters. We're the casters. We're tossing it back to ourselves. We're going to toss it to the analyst to talk a little bit more about this game.
You know who's actually been to Worlds, Clement? You know who's not failed in clutch moments to get himself to Worlds and went through Uzi of all people to pick up his first championship after only 19 games played in the LPL? It wasn't SMLZ.
You already sent the tweet. Why do you have to make a statement to the world out here?
Because I wanted to make eye contact with Clement, so he knows that if I was over there, I would beat him.
That's excellent, by the way. I will say, just to start this all off, it's just a tilting factor for every AD carry in the league for iBoy to come in there, already be placed into playoffs, and then go to Worlds. The only thing I will give him, which is a really big one, actually, when he went to Worlds, he actually made a name for himself. A lot of plays that he was able to get for himself. So, excellent play at Worlds, iBoy. As you shift your eyes over to Clement.
It's all good. Love you, Clement. It's okay. So what we're in right now is a pause. Why we are in the pause is because Icon says that he is not in this place that he was when the Chrono Break was happening, so we're having a ref review the footage. As soon as that has been cleared up, we will go back into the game. So just making sure that the Chrono Break, everything is all in order and sorted before we continue with this game.
There we go. And so, yeah, I mean, all of this is really touchy part, especially in traditional sports. I feel like in one of these sports, it's a sponsored event the moment you challenge these plays.
It feels like we're actually getting closer to traditional sports where the coach freaks out.
Yeah.
He calls for the play review, and the ref, gets up there and he peers into the giant thing. He's like, no, the world must be drowned out. I must see exactly what this play is. Was this LeBlanc actually in the mid lane, or was he rotating in towards the top side?
That's why you gotta have these footages. I'm gonna throw shade at the NBA because I love the NBA and I watched the finals of the NBA, and guess what happened there? Or at least the Cavs were just
I've
getting
seen
a lot
a couple
of
of memes about what happened in the NBA.
The refs were bad.
This is actually the worst thing about basketball. Like, don't get me wrong. Basketball as a sport seems very interesting to me. I'm not a basketball fan myself. Yes. But as a non-basketball fan who doesn't care about basketball, the rest of the world will not let me not care about basketball. I open up my Twitter feed. I'm like, oh, I guess something's happening in the NBA because every single goddamn tweet is all about the NBA. The amount of times that I've had to look at LeBron and be like,
oh my goodness. Well, that was overdone for a lot of people. They should have stopped on day 2, but it kept happening. So
yeah, the other bad meme is the Infinity War one.
Yeah, that's also
I haven't even seen that movie, and I don't even want to see it because of that meme.
No, watch the movie, but just watch other movies. Watch the rest of the Marvel movies before you get into that one. That's the only thing I have.
I'll put those Oscar winners right on the top of the list right now. I'm a bit of a movie snob.
I'm pretty bad with movies.
Yeah, you are. Pop culture in general.
pretty bad with it. Maybe that's going to be my homework.
Our producer's pinging like, please talk about the game. So we're about, 12 minutes into the game right now because of the Chrono Break. Basically what's happened is we had a lot of bot lane ganks. We have a Kled in the mid lane. And we were having this discussion about composition. You look at the Kled, you look at who it's surrounded by. Yes, it's a Kled mid lane, but he's got a Mundo, he's got a Skarner, and he's got a Fiddlesticks. All these champions who innately don't necessarily have, I guess Skarner does have, hard CC, but need some sort of assistance in gap closing to allow their hard CC, so Kled makes sense. Charges in, everyone just steamrolls behind him.
Yeah, and so vision control for this team is so much more important because unless if it's just Skarner looking for flash ultis. For them, they really need Fiddlesticks to be in Fog of War to be able to get a lot of the plays coming through, because the best thing about ulti is it's essentially a flash. It's a blink ability, so you can get your Q across. You want to max your Q, you want to get the longest sphere possible. So a lot of those plays are incredible if you visualize the Kled charging in, Fiddlesticks getting the fear, and Lucian just charging in as well if they don't see you. So there's a lot of battles happening through mid lane and bottom lane just so they can actually get these teams ahead. I know we're looking at the level 1 happening here.
We're looking at all of the kills, so we're going to catch you up right quick on what happened this game. And the very first thing was a first blood that came out, and I believe only one flash, Skarner's flash, was expended there, as well as the ignite from Fiddlesticks.
Yeah.
But otherwise, Rogue Warriors didn't use virtually any of their resources to acquire first blood from Mundo.
This is why the pause is really important, because Rogue Warriors got themselves in a really positive position before this point. And it's great that it was answered back 5-5 in Chelly, so they weren't in such a poor position in laning phase. But even after this play, Rogue Warriors were able to contest that back in the 2v2. So this game is really still up in the air. This was the 2v2 that I'm referring to, that Fiddlesticks was able to channel a full ulti. So it's great. A lot of the plays are happening bottom lane, and it's great to see that Icon and Mountain were able to answer back in the kill. So, I mean, we're going to see more action bottom lane. One of these plays are going to have to come to a head.
I mean, the scary thing, though, is that while all of this action or the resources are on the bot lane, because Mouse did get that first blood, he's already got a completed Sunfire Cape by 12 minutes into the game, and he's effectively went from being Mundo to being Singed. Before the Chrono Break came in, he was proxy farming behind the tower, using his W as well as the Sunfire, and just eating up all of this experience. So there is going to be a breaking point, or at least a very obnoxious pressure point on the map if OMG are going to continue to try to deal with the bot lane while Mundo is just running amok topside.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm going to come out and say that I think LeBlanc is in a tough position. Even though she's the Fed member of the enemy team for OMG, what is she going to be doing in these team fights? She's going to be looking towards Kled.
Not killing Mundo.
Exactly. She's not going to be looking towards killing Mundo or Kled, because that's really tough. LeBlanc into the Kled and laning phase is fine because you're not looking at an all-in situation, but it's very difficult to find yourself getting in towards Kled and getting the damage across, especially since once he's on the... What's that? Skarl. There we go.
I was going to say the mid lane.
What is the horse name? Anyways. But yeah, once he's on Skarl, you actually get negative damage across once you lose Skarl. At least, so you're loving the horse thing, aren't you?
I don't know why. Rusty has the wallpaper of Skarl with the giant googly eyes.
That is a good wallpaper.
I'm imagining someone looking at that photo and be like, that's a horse.
It's basically a horse. I don't know what else to say. It's a lizard horse. What do we got here?
I don't know why I find that so funny.
It is a good image. It's good mental imagery.
You must see this wallpaper. Skarl just has giant eyes.
Now, Rusty, if you're listening, you're going to have to put it on social media.
It's definitely on social media already.
So, that being said, yeah. Kled and Mundo are going to make it hell for LeBlanc. So LeBlanc, as the game goes on, as she's dying, I'm going to talk to you, ladies and gentlemen. As the game continues forward, LeBlanc is essentially going to have to go in side lane. So I think OMG, if they can get it going properly in the mid game, they should split the map up. They should never be in a team fight situation.
I actually started to cry.
You were crying. You were crying. I got your back.
Boy. Okay. So win conditions, Icon, unable to have kill pressure on anyone. He can still be obnoxious out into a side lane. But is that actually a viable strategy with side lane LeBlanc in 8-11? Because you would say with an Aatrox with a Singed, absolutely.
There's a tear coming on her face. But I think it's a good point for her to be on side lane, especially she can actually just go the Lich Bane later on. It's not a build for her right now. She can just go straight AP. But Lich Bane later on in the game is a possibility. And remember, she's staring down pretty squishy support as well, so Fiddlesticks is not going to be having a good time.
That's the one goal, just kill Kahlua repeatedly until she has kill pressure on everyone.
That's the problem if you're a Fiddlesticks. If you're a Fiddlesticks, great. You're great in lane. You're fantastic. Maybe your silences would be great. Also the Q going across. You're beautiful in team fights. You don't have any HP. You have no damage. You're just going to die.
I mean, a big concern, though, is that even if... I mean, Fiddlesticks is not here for the ult. Like, if I look at this composition, I'm saying... To my Fiddlesticks player, it doesn't matter if you're ult. Your only job is to make sure that bird just bounces across everyone. If you get the ult, that's just the cherry on top. Because ultimately, you've got a Skarner, a Mundo, a Kled with an 80 carry who's piloted by SMLZ, you know, one of the hyper carry ADCs of our region. So you've got like these 3 giant bruisers, and then you got Lucian dancing everywhere, just like, how are you ever going to fight front to back? All Fiddles has to do is just throw birds in there, just silence everyone on the enemy team.
Yeah, and fear you too. So that's going to be a tough one for the enemy team. So that's what I'm looking at. I love the composition that we see. It just means that they cannot, like, I'm looking at the side of the Kled composition. They fall behind, all of it goes to the wayside. There's a reason why Kled mid was just not successful. It was good for the laning phase at the time, but the problem with it in team fights was that your front to back was always difficult. This time around you have a Mundo, so that's no longer an issue. But you really are a linear champion. And the linear factor of it means that when you get into a point where your all-ins just don't work anymore, if you don't have the stats to back you up, then there's no playmaking to get back into. And when QSSs are getting built on the enemy team, then what can you even look for in terms of CC?
But ultimately, then, if we look across OMG's composition, and reminder to our viewers, it's Gangplank, Trundle, LeBlanc, Ryze, and Alistar. I'm unsure if we can get our lower third back up for these comps. But when we initially saw the Ryze come out in Champion Select, you and I both turned to each other and we laughed and we said, it's Ryze, Trundle.
That's
They're
true.
just going to hard camp the mid lane, use the Trundle Pillar, Ryze Snare as kind of the classic combo and have a lot of kill pressure there, and then pulled out the last pick, LeBlanc, an Icon special. But this tells me that OMG are just looking at bot lane, that they just got a giant target there. It's Trundle, Ryze with an Alistar.
Yep.
But you lose a lot of that power if that doesn't get snowballed during the lane phase. And in 8-11, yes, lane phase is deciding a lot of these matchups, but it's also much shorter than it used to be. You know, these towers are no longer falling at 15 minutes. They're falling closer to 8-9 minutes in the game.
Yeah, and I think that this game might be a little bit different from what we're seeing in the meta, just because with all of the weird picks that we're coming across, there's a lot of incentive between both of these teams to make the game go a little bit longer, right? We already talked about Rogue Warriors composition to be pretty heavy towards team fighting, so they're not going to be pretty upset. They're not going to be upset at all when it comes to looking for Elder Dragons and Baron, right? So that's going to be a point that they can look towards, but OMG still has a really fantastic composition around side lanes of LeBlanc and Ryze. So I think that's great, and they can even look towards lengthening the game out for the GP. So it's so far so good. I think this is a really cool game if we can get to see it going, in that both teams have incentive to take it a little longer.
I do want to remind everyone, again, we are in a technical pause. We're just clearing some things up with the refs to make sure that the chrono break has gone through. That said, if the pauses continue to happen and the Xi'an Team WE versus TOP game starts, we will go and broadcast that game. Again, it's going to be starting at 7 p.m. China time for the local audience. And if you haven't seen the Xi'an Stadium, which we haven't shown it on broadcast yet, it's sick.
It's pretty damn good. I was just literally talking to the audio guy here for quite some time, and I was just like, I haven't seen it. You know, I'm fine being surprised, but he was like, you got to take a look at this picture. It's like, all right, let me take a look. And I was like, the audience has to see it. The world has to see it. So if we even get some images from the opening ceremony, then beautiful.
Yeah, Team WE had their opening ceremony. There was a lot of images that were going around Weibo, social media, things like that. It will be Team WE's inaugural game in the summer split as well as their home stadium.
Yeah.
And I do have some questions about, you know, when we saw OMG pick up and move to Chengdu, they were one of the only teams to do that mid-split. Our other teams, when they moved into their away arenas, did it before the split.
Yeah.
And it almost seemed like OMG's results were impacted because they were in the middle of this move. Again, this is subjective, you know, haven't discussed with the team and be like, did this affect your scrim culture or anything like that? But it seemed that once OMG were settled in Chengdu, where they had been there for a little bit, they started to climb back up the standings, whereas in the very beginning of the split, they really suffered. Do you think we might see the same thing with Team WE or even RNG as they're moving into their stadiums in Beijing and Xi'an?
I think for those teams, it's a little better because they did it at the very beginning of the split, right? And there are no changes. I think WE is a little difficult because they do have roster changes coming through. And I think it's an accumulation of all those changes happening at the same time. With OMG, new players coming in, Chelly came in, so that was a legitimate major shift to the team's lineup, right? And then on top of that, of course, you talk about them going to new lands, new game house, right? A lot of that means that they have to be...
And moved out of the spaceship.
Yeah. So all of this happening very much in mid-split is pretty damn big. I think for WE, it might shift them a little bit more because they have the roster changes that's been happening as well. So
also coaching staff changes. I believe they picked up the CJ Inches coaching staff team.
So these are changes that come through for the team that they have to be comfortable with it first. And it's good that they're doing it at the beginning of the split so they can iron all of that right out. So I think that it's happening at a better time than what happened to OMG.
But the concern is that you would almost hope that this would have happened in spring versus summer. Obviously, you're working on like a much different scale in terms of like construction, signing, getting everything, all the logistics set out for, you know, building of an arena versus just changing out your coaching staff. But Team WE as an organization, the international fans, the domestic fans, they expect this team to be a contender for Worlds. And so there's not a lot of wiggle room in terms of false starts.
Yeah, and this is the start we've been looking for with this team. Remember, WE's expectations last year was just go to Worlds, you guys are the best team in the LPL. That's your expectation. Spring Split was completely different because they lose Condi. Suddenly the team is leaderless in the jungle position, and then so they have to build up 2 new players on the team.
Xie's playing like a god despite that.
And that's the thing, because they wouldn't have made playoffs if they didn't have Xie playing like a boss. And now not only are we seeing a Xie at that level, but we're also going to be seeing Condi back. And so I think the combination of the two, we might see a stronger WE. That is legitimately, and they were already the best team then too. So if we're talking about a team that made it to Worlds last time around, who are our 4 teams going to the Worlds? I know this is a long ways away, but that's already got me, you know,
triggering me, Raz.
Yeah.
No, because
I just can't go to sleep tonight.
I was in alignment. I thought that when Team WE went to Worlds, that they were definitively the best LPL team, that they had a little bit of a sync right before going into Worlds. But from an international viewer perspective, who only got the viewing experience of RNG, WE, and Edward Gaming in the context of just that one tournament, all of those viewers, like, RNG are definitively the best Chinese team. They've always been the best Chinese team. What are you talking about?
Well, to be fair to them, they both went to semifinals.
Did you say to be fair?
To be fair to just like WE, RNG, they literally both.
To be fair to the team.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, Raz, don't be fair to them. They don't watch the LPL.
I was just saying that they both went to the semifinals, so they technically just both got off at the same stop. So like both of those teams, it's nice to see them kind of having the switch off, go to Worlds, perform just as well as each other, and WE got taken down by the eventual champion, so you can have that argument
remind
there.
me what teams only took games off of the world champion. I can't quite remember what region those teams came from.
Okay, now we're going into full assault mode. It did happen, you know, and RNG did teach him a few things in the group stage, but that's going way far back. And I think that for me going into this split, because we have 4 teams that we're immediately looking towards when it comes to World's position. It's EDG immediately, the expectation's always there. Invictus Gaming, because the last split was boss. And then you have RNG, literal MSI World Champions.
The definition, boss.
Boss.
That's the scale. There's
with
like
triple S.
There's bad, good, and boss.
And then this the 4th team, which is WE. And even though it feels like people are already signing them off because of how poor Spring Split was, you know, this is the same team now. Sure, they've added Imp, which is that's a positive.
Is that a boss?
Boss with 4 S's.
Okay.
We're just gonna keep going, and we're gonna be sounding like snakes. But yeah, basically this is a world squad. So when we're going down through the split, we're talking about LPL being the most competitive league in the world. This is the reason for it, because there's going to be one team left behind at the stop, and one of them is going to be incredibly salty.
I was going to play my favorite game, which is Controversial Statements, and I was going to ask, is the LPL actually the most competitive split in the world? But that said, I see that the game has started live, so you get out free. We're going to throw it over to the casters.
And that's it. We're back into the game, and Harold is up. Jelly with the charge. Looks like Icon is making his way out of base, so I suppose that recall actually completed. And now we are back. Ooh. 13 minutes in after all of that excellent conversation about who is the best, who is the second best, which of our teams are we sending to Worlds. Let's talk about League of Legends, Clement. Let's talk about this game.
So apparently that Rift Herald took down the mid lane tower while Icon was still in base. A little bit unfortunate right there for this to happen to Icon, and we don't really know the circumstances, but here is the map. Let's take a look at it and kind of grab a little of what's happening. Rogue Warriors back to their old tricks.
Yeah, Flawless is back in that bottom lane. Don't know if he thinks he was spotted out by a ward somewhere. That was a pretty safe path, but the wave pushes in, and he decides to back away. He's got the Flash Impale once again if they were to look for a dive similar to the one they took earlier, but that's Crowstorm over the wall. Killua just going for...
He got the fear.
Yes, he did. And blue buff has now been taken by OMG. Flawless is spotted on the way out. Pillar of Filth, but Flawless is on the far side.
Yep, able to get away from that. That was Mountain basically to try to chase them away. I don't think Rogue Warriors want to take a fight here without the Crow Storm. So just kind of backing away, giving OMG their safe space.
Plus, Mouse is missing on the map right now. He's doing the Wolf Camp, so could be feigning towards that bottom side. OMG, like you said, playing it safe, and Rogue Warriors trying to press that safe space. But to come back to what we were talking about earlier, it's 3 kills to 4, 24,000 gold for both teams. Huge priority on this bottom half of the map. We've seen Flawless roaming down there. We've seen Doinby look for a dive. Even Icon and Mountain continually stepping into the river to look for Scuttle Crab control, and even trying to get some wards into Rogue Warriors jungle. So we'll see how that plays out, and if that continues to be the priority, because again, that first dragon is a Cloud.
And we can talk about how OMG wants to continue on with this game. I think the best style for them is actually to go into the enemy jungle and try to play with the Gangplank ultimate while Mundo's teleport is down. They have a really strong damage burst outside of a bush coming out from Icon, already sitting on a 2-0-0 with that magic pen set up already. So what they do want the chain of events to kind of go like is basically Trundle tries to push one of these lanes in, move into the jungle.
Oh, that's the charge. Doinby knocked off his Scarl plus the pillar, but a teleport behind started and canceled by Mouse.
This is great for OMG because they can now go into the strategy I was just talking about. As long as Mundo does not have his teleport, they will always deal more damage on the bottom side of the map because of Xion's Cannon Barrage. So I do expect them to move into the enemy jungle and try to contest those buffs.
Already you can see they were pushing up for the wards. Flawless and Killua just constantly fighting over control over that jungle. But this is exactly what you were talking about. Mountain tags up with 5. Here comes the invade from Icon as well, and Flawless is forced to sit back by that buff. And all of the lane control that SMLZ and Killua were supposed to have is suddenly given up with so many members of OMG missing.
Yeah, this is a great type of composition to make picks inside the enemy jungle. You have strong CC from Chelly and Alistar, and you also have the burst damage coming out from an assassin like Icon. This is how you want to play the setup. Like the analyst was talking about, sure, they do have some chances into the late games in terms of putting the LeBlanc on a side lane, but I don't think that's the optimal strategy for them. They want to finish things much earlier.
There's the engage. Flawless is waiting for it, and the Cannon Barrage. A flash, but 5 might have gone a bit too far. Zanya's, but there's no chance. Killua goes down to Chelly from that stopwatch as they are set to trade support. Doinby was the one who teleported in, but Icon just walks down and roams. Doinby gets popped off the Scarl and dies as it's an aggressive dive as Xiong teleports in. They're chasing SMLZ down as Xiong kills his former teammate, and they're setting up for the dive. Flawless pinned against the wall, nowhere to go. The poor Scorpion trying to look for something, but doesn't stand a chance. 4 members of OMG find themselves 4 kills.
Yeah, I think Rogue Warriors really overstepped there. Mouse does not have the teleport. You don't want the entire team converging onto the bot lane. They were prepared to go all in there, but that was a weird move because there was no reason their top lane was going to come there. And the great thing about Gangplank is you can kind of equalize without using your teleport, and in this case, he even went down to pick up more kills. So kind of a big blunder by Rogue Warriors. They really need to play on a more defensive stance.
Here's that play once again. It all starts with the bait from Rogue Warriors, but the defensive stance does not work out for them as 5 forces the fight.
Yep, we see them going in right here. The teleports are already coming down, but the big thing is Killua really fell down very early into the fight, and the position of Doinby's teleport actually put him in an incredibly bad spot. Great play by Icon here, waiting for him to get off Scarl to use his chain, is able to secure the kill.
Meanwhile, you can see the follow-up dive as they just juggle aggro and chase down Flawless. You just saw a quick kill onto 5 from OMG as 3 members of Rogue Warriors collapsed. He's respawning on the bottom right of your screen. But the lane swap has been initiated by Rogue Warriors. Doinby in the top lane, SMLZ still hanging out bottom, and it's Mundo in the mid lane to try to keep pace with this Icon LeBlanc, because take a look at that build, Clement. It wasn't the Morello's second. He decided to go for the full completion on this Luden's Echo.
So what he's saying is that, you know what, I'm not touching this Mundo anytime soon. Might as well complete my burst damage item with the Luden's Echo. And he's doing very well for himself. A 4-0-0 LeBlanc is absolutely terrifying. We saw Rookie go up to 8 kills, and he was insta-killing everyone inside the enemy jungle. It puts so much pressure on the game and essentially ended the game. So what we're seeing Rogue Warriors do right now is they realize, hey, we can't stay split. We absolutely need to group up, or this LeBlanc is going to pick us to pieces.
Xiang is trying to defend, but Rogue Warriors are setting up for the dive. They've brought all 5, and they've managed to catch up. Cannon Barrage plus the Impale, and they've pulled Mountain out of position and found a kill. Rogue Warriors are the ones forcing the play on this Tier 1. And despite being down in kills with this turret, Rogue Warriors are up in gold, but Icon hops over, lands the chain. He's got the burst and still gets it. Doesn't get the chance to pop back as he accidentally flashes forward and trades 1-for-1, but that's the shutdown onto Icon.
Yeah, a little bit of a, I'm not sure if it was a misplay right there, but he doesn't go back to his original position with the W and gets a shutdown of now 600 gold going over into Doinby's pocket. So that's actually a pretty big shift of currency.
Yeah, OMG are still using that opportunity to push up in the mid lane. If they can break this Tier 1 back, that could make it a little bit more worth. Rune Prison. Flawless is going to turn onto 5, plus the teleport flank is Mouse. He's about to go where he pleases. 5 is the target. Uses the Unbreakable Will. Hex Flash not available as they chase it up. Doinby looking for Chelly. It's the kills and revenge for the turret, but Mountain is back up. Doinby with the charge allows his team to chase up. Mountain gets pulled back as Xiang lands nothing as he misses that barrel, but Rogue Warriors trade a turret for a kill.
Still a decently favorable comeback trade for OMG. Taking down the mid lane tower is going to open up access into the enemy jungle so Icon can sit in a brush and just wait for passerbys, like she's doing right now.
Trying to chase Flawless out of position, but now Rogue Warriors are starting to accelerate this a little bit more. It seems like we're starting to see these bigger team fights, but they haven't upset the pace of the game. This almost seems to go against what we expected from the meta, from this composition, from these compositions specifically. The first 5v5 would be so important in determining the pace of the mid game and the transition into late, but it's still dead even between the two teams. It's 3 turrets to 2, 8 kills to 9.
I'm actually really interested in what's going to happen if the two teams run into each other in a full 5v5, because I think Icon, while the analyst desk was talking about he only has 2 targets, you're talking about a 5-1-0 LeBlanc. She can actually burst and kill the Skarner running forward as well. So it does change a bit of the teamfight dynamics, but overall, OMG does want to play a more skirmish-oriented type of game. They definitely are not looking forward to the big 5v5 grouping come late game.
For the time being, they're trying to push their advantage here in this mid-game. Again, it's the 1-3-1 strategy with Doinby in that Kled on the side lane. Mouse on the opposite side of the map. Teleport is ready for Doinby, though he doesn't have his charge just yet. Mouse does not have his teleport, but he does have Sadism. That does mean OMG will use this opportunity to try and control this mid lane. And whoa, the pull out of Distortion! Icon, how do you like that? Flawless with the frame-perfect execution. Doinby from around the side.
And
he's going to charge it. Mountain is the target, and OMG don't stand a chance. Cleanse isn't going to get you anywhere, but as Chelly is chased down by Rogue Warriors.
Great fingers from Flawless right there, flashing right over onto Icon and pulling it in before he could go back on the W. So it's just,
that was dirty.
You know, we have a lot of fast fingers in the LPL.
And they're turning on to the Baron. 2 members are dead. Mountain is alive. He's got flash, but there's no blast cone. Ward over the wall, spots it out. Immediately it's cleared out, but Baron is down to about half. It's just spawned. Cannon Barrage into the pit, but Mouse is looking for the kills. Doinby denied by an excellent pillar from Mountain. But Mouse is going to continue chasing on. He goes where he pleases. There's nothing that can deal with him. SMLZ is doing some damage with Flawless, but Rogue Warriors decide not to take any chances. They see LeBlanc is back up, and they're like, we need to get out.
That's the major point there. LeBlanc was coming back onto the map, and they knew that this was going to give a lot of kills over to Icon, especially with that Baron Magic resistance debuff on all of their members. So I think it was a fair call right there to try to, you know, prevent a disaster. But let's look at this again. Going in, she has the distort.
God.
LeBlanc can go back, but not fast enough.
Oh man, what a combo. And then the chase down from the rest of Rogue Warriors. Doinby with the teleport flank from the side that we saw earlier. They just chase Chelly down, uses everything he can to try to escape, but it's just not enough.
Yeah, Chelly's going to have a hard time in these coming team fights. The silence coming out from Fiddlesticks, and also that many champions willing to pile in on him is going to make his life incredibly hard.
And Now Ocean Dragon picked up by Rogue Warriors. If not the Baron, they get the consolation prize. Mouse is fighting Mountain over this Scuttlecraft. Excuse me, Mouse is just fighting Mountain. And Icon actually shows up and starts shredding through. That's the Morellos. Even a Realm Warp getting in there. All 5 members from OMG are showing up, with the exception of Xiang, who does have that teleport.
And this is what happens when you're a tank against Trundle. Subjugate is such a good weapon against health stacking tanks, especially like Mundo. And you could see that Icon is fed enough to deal with the front line of Rogue Warriors. So I actually think it's the scales are kind of tipping in different directions just because of the game state. Like Rogue Warriors in the super late game actually do have a bit of trouble penetrating OMG's composition. They're going to have to deal with Alistar, and Trundle's going to be incredibly tanky into the front line. And they also have to face LeBlanc that can do this!
Killua over the wall. It uses the Zanya, splashes away, but that's 2 ultimates blown to try and kill him, and now he's got to make his way back to base.
Now, this is such an interesting game. We laid out the game one way, but because of the development inside the game itself, it's actually changing how these compositions can function. Rogue Warriors are the ones looking for the catches now.
Doinby, flash from Icon to respect that. Didn't have a lot of mana, so probably didn't want to take any chances looking for any sort of outplays there, but easy usage of the Summoner spell and just constant skirmishing around the map. We've been talking about what would happen if we see the 5 stack from either team, the full-on 5v5. Clement, 25 minutes in, and we haven't seen that. It's all about picks. It's all about rotation. Who is catching whom out of position?
Yeah, neither side is really confident enough to go for it. I would say it would be more on Rogue Warriors' side to go because they have the all-in comp. But you can tell they're not super happy about running into an Alistar Trundle frontline at this point in time. They know that the damage dealers on OMG are strong enough to really fight back against just the front line. So it's kind of becoming this game where it's becoming a bit stalled out. Rogue Warriors are now trying to go into map control mode. They're trying to push the waves out and make sure OMG doesn't have a chance to set up in their own jungle, but they're not confident themselves to actually run into them.
We can see Mouse in the side lane this time with his teleport as far away from any sort of 5-man collapse as possible. Doinby, without his teleport, without his charge, is up in that top lane. Still SMLZ and Killua holding down that fort in the mid lane. Essence Reaver finally finished off for SMLZ, so he'll be able to dance around. And even holding on to the Hex Drinker, not quite going to transform it into the Maw of Malmortius due to the shield nerfs, but Icon fancies himself a duel. He's going toe-to-toe with Doinby. The Hitman himself has got another name on his list. But Doinby just backs off.
Does have enough health stack to withstand most of the burst damage. Here, just a bit of a love tap from Icon, you know, shoo him away from the position.
Try and contest this 1-3-1 out of Rogue Warriors, but take a look at where Rogue Warriors are on the map. They've brought Mouse up with them. Andy's still holding on to teleport. So they're trying to set up some vision around the Baron. There goes the charge, and look who the target is. Once again, forcing Icon away as Doinby takes the long route around to control that side wave. Still, Rogue Warriors hunting for these picks, constantly moving around and trying to find them.
That was pretty optimistic, I would say. Judging by the distance he actually charged, I think the enemy would have heard the sound signals.
Yeah, that's
really.
I think what we saw there, Icon just heard it and decided to back away all the way to the turret.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he tried it on LeBlanc. Like, I could understand if you're going for a game flank like that, but I don't see that ever working against Icon, to be honest.
I mean, he got a flash out of him last time. Maybe he thought he could look for the kill.
Incredibly
Titanic
optimistic.
plus Black Cleaver.
He was basically waiting for Icon to use Distort to wave
but look
clear.
at where Doinby is. I don't know if he wants to be there. There are a lot of people nearby.
Mundo still has his teleport. Does have a chance to come here.
Used by Flawless to push the wave. Doinby finally steps up by leaping out of the brush to show himself. And OMG back away. That banner minion is still going to push, so OMG are the ones who are starting to give up a little bit more of the map, take a more defensive position.
And that's
Icon
because
hasn't been hunting.
The sidewave control coming out from Rogue Warriors in Mouse. Like, Mouse has had a great early game, and at this point, Gangplank can't really stand up and contest him. He can't push him out of that lane anymore. So what Rogue Warriors is going to continuously do is basically try to play a 4-1, which is, interestingly enough, we don't really see them play in this style, and try to move Mundo in to get that 5v4.
And in the meanwhile, though, They're just going to continue sticking with the 4-1 as Doinby actually might be looking for Xiang. He's sitting on the bottom side of the map, but oh, that's the Terrify and a Drain on top of it. Icon is going to back away, but the Predator, an immediate teleport channel. Let's see if it's going to be completed as Flawless still holding onto the Impale. Doinby charging in, misses the first initial charge, but the skirmish goes out. Flawless is forced to back away, still holding on to the ultimate, but Mouse is soaking so much the Ignite tick will finally finish off Flawless in the back.
Oh, that was unfortunate from Doinby. They could have got much more from that, but he miscalculated where the fight would actually happen. And just to talk about the jump in by Icon, it was a really smart thing he did there. He wanted to go for the kill on Kahlua, but once he saw the Skarner was near, he did not use his Quicksilver Sash. He actually held onto it for the later CC right there. So able to get away from that kind of misstep on the first play and punish thereafter.
But it's still OMG reacting to Rogue Warriors plays. It's Rogue Warriors who are, they've got the more active composition with the Skarner Impale, with the Kled charge. And on the other side, we've been talking about Icon on this LeBlanc. He's sitting on 11,700 gold, only 500 gold ahead of Doinby, despite having 5 kills. The effectiveness of this LeBlanc is starting to perhaps taper a little bit, as Killua has shown. He's got the Zanyas. We're getting closer and closer to a tankier build from SMLZ with the Black Cleaver being finished and the Hex Drinker. Perhaps Icon could be starting to have less effectiveness in this because he's constantly being hounded by the Rogue Warriors.
Of course, that's naturally going to happen to any assassin, but the thing about someone like LeBlanc and assassins in general is as long as you have those targets on the enemy team, you're going to be fine. Like, you're never going to hit Mundo in the first place.
Yeah.
So as long as, like, Fiddlesticks and Lucian are still running around, like, the big...
Whoa, SMLZ walks up for Xiang.
For you.
Yeah, just happily diving under the tier 2. Cannon Barrage clears out the wave as Mouse tanks the rest of it, and Rogue Warriors will escort him to safety. Meanwhile, Icon finishing off the top tier 1 against Doinby, who's still very tanky.
Essence Flare is incredibly good on Lucian, but let's talk about this 1v1 fight here. Let's get the double.
The charge. The Bear Trap on a rope. He's going to tag Icon back, plus the Ignite pulling away, and that's just teleports as everyone is joining in. SMLZ, Shelly's out of position, teleport completed. A Xiang joins in, but Doinby will not be stopped. He drops off the Scarl, doesn't have the courage, and is ticking down, dies, but they trade 1 for 1 as they trade onto Shelly. Flawless, looking for Xiang, but 5 is distracting as best he can. Over the wall, the Crow Storm, and he's going to catch up. That's the double kill for SMLZ as OMG put up way too much more than they can chew. They lose 4 members in front of the Baron.
Uncoordinated teleports coming in from OMG. They sent Shelly down first. That's the marksman straight into the fray, into a bunch of cruisers. And Doinby is able to survive so long in that fight. The initial trade was incredibly good. He got the double joust onto Icon, so able to get most of his damage down on a melee versus ranged matchup and to turn the fight from there. Once Mundo actually entered the fight, it was over.
Oh, that's the culling and the cannon barrage. SMLZ actually just dashed away, lands an auto attack. He wanted that kill. He wanted that duel. The sniper lines up a shot, but he doesn't get it. Baron picked up by Rogue Warriors 32 minutes in. It might not have been the full 5-on-5 we were expecting, but I think Rogue Warriors will take this piecemeal any day.
Yep, to just start the fight off, notice that the Doinby joust did hit onto Icon, so he's able to double dash onto his position, get most of his damage out. And this is just a bad teleport position from Shelly. He's being stuck here between Flawless and SMLZ. Basically does no damage before he goes down. So that was just like 1 free member down from the Rogue Warriors site. And you can see Mundo moving up from the flank, Kahlua as well over the wall. And this was just, this should have been a pure disengaged situation. I think Mountain could have played that a little bit better by cutting the Mundo off that was falling behind him rather than just like falling on the same path. But, you know, the start of the fight really decided what happened there.
Yeah, and that's Rogue Warriors finding a lot of kills. They used the Baron to push through the tier 2 in the mid lane. 5 is on the side. He's got flash and a lot of crowd control. Icon lands the first hit onto Flawless. Meanwhile, Doinby's in the bottom lane. He's got teleport and level 3 charge, so he can group up rather quickly. Plus, Mouse is massive. He's got 4 items and a chain vest, and Killua... What was that?
I think he missed the wall.
Killua, what the heck? All right, whatever. Maybe he was looking for that 5. Is actually there behind it. There's the
definitely
cannon
saw
barrage,
that.
and now they found Killua. He flashes, plus the Zhonya's to sell it out. Doinby joins the fight, though. Mountain is going low. He's trying to back out of this one. Finally, Killua and SMLZ has died, but Icon is still trying to clean this up as Mouse backs away. Doinby trying to retreat, but the Realm Warp cuts him off, even escorting the minions in for the kill. As Rogue Warriors making a huge mistake.
Great positioning from 5, cutting off the entire backline right there. And of course, Xiang with the cannon barrage makes sure that they all stay in place. And I just think Rogue Warriors probably got a little bit too confident. They were willing to back off without the Crow Storm, and they probably just thought that OMG wouldn't notice.
Yeah. Maybe a little bit of a mistake, but now this is OMG pushing up to the tier 2. You can see Skarner now pushing the bottom tier 2 on the opposite side to try and get some sort of consolation. But 34 minutes in, OMG are still in this.
You can see the problem with this type of team fight is that, okay, so let's watch this again. Does Icon actually, oh, so they try to catch Icon out, and Icon apparently, doesn't look like he sees it from here, but probably has heard the sound effect.
I mean, there was the ward right there that we just saw. Killua tried to hop over the wall from outside of vision and gets punished for it.
Yep, SMLZ dealing most of his damage onto the front line. Let's see how he is taken down. Gets hit by the Trundle Killer straight into a, I believe that was a explosive barrel from the gameplay. Takes out his HP immediately. There's just nothing they can
cleans
do.
it up. But still, though, Rogue Warriors are able to respond off the back of it and get the top tier 2. And with this, they're going to continue pushing. A huge barrel does a good amount of damage, but with this Baron cannon minion, plus the banner, pushing up to this inhibitor, they might be looking for some chip damage. They chunk the turret down to about half. But Rogue Warriors have already given up on this push, and they make their way back to safety.
There's nothing they can really do. They don't have the siege potential that other teams provide them, and Lucian is never going to be standing in front and hitting the tower. So they're basically just pushing waves and trying to scale up on the resources inside of OMG's jungle.
That said, OMG are now reaching the late game. They've got themselves 65,000 gold. They're actually up against Rogue Warriors despite being down 1 turret. And now, that late game that we were so scared of is about to become a reality. Mouse is trying to run as fast as he can. But Sadism, look at the health, 200 health per tick, 300 yearly, but they're trying to force the fight, plus Crow Storm, they're going to burn through 5's health, plus Culling on the side, gets OMG, Icon away, they do get the knockup, but it's not enough, SMLZ is kiting it around, and this is still the constant chase down, SMLZ, he's going from the side, he cleanses Icon, is not going to get the kill on his former teammate, Icon's the one who gets it himself, Mountain follows through, Shelly dives and finally locks it down, but that's 4 members of OMG dead.
That's 3 members left for our Rogue Warriors. They're going to go for the top lane inhibitor here. It's a good thing that Icon did manage to kind of snipe out SMLZ at the very end, not allow him to have that pushing power to potentially end the game.
Now it's just Doinby and Mouse pushing up to this inhibitor turret. They should be able to break it down as there are now pings onto the Elder Dragon from the back of this. Still massive death timers from OMG. As Xiang is just going to try and defend and keep his team in the game by defending the tier 2. But like you said, this is a massive setup from OMG that they were able to get the kill onto SMLZ, who was just dancing around this fight like a figure skater.
Yep, they spent most of their CC abilities onto Mouse first, and the rest of the team was able to follow up before those cooldowns even came up, just because of Doinby coming into the fight. Killua actually was not a, 5 was not a very good target to start this fight on, and he actually had very good CC in the start. But I think SMLZ's positioning coming into the fight was too good. He was very far back behind the front line.
Yeah. Dodging Icon's harass with the ethereal chains, even the Sigil of Malice, and plus keeping a timer on that distortion. Excellent sense of timing as a charge from Doinby in order to get some of these minions from over the wall. Good resource management from the 2 teams to make sure they've got the items that they need. But Elder Dragon picked up double elemental buff for 135 true damage from Rogue Warriors. And Baron is up in a minute.
Is what is going to kill OMG, basically. Like, with Nimbus Cloak on Fiddlesticks, if he isn't shut down immediately after he ults, he can actually reach the backline fairly easily and shut down Chelly instead.
This wave that has been pushing for OMG will be capped on one side, Flawless. Doesn't want to be caught out by any sort of LeBlanc Rise Trundle, so he's playing nice and defensive. Here comes a very important buy. This could be the Mercurial Scimitar to finally get full build on SMLZ, as he is massive. 8, 6, and 6. Yeah, the Mercurial Scimitar is finished. And Baron's up in 30 seconds. We might not have gotten the big 5v5 we wanted to see early on, but I feel like it's coming now. Yep. It's not so much pick-oriented at this point. It's all about just trying to smash your team into the enemy team and run over them for Rogue Warriors.
Rogue Warriors is getting confident now. Their front line has scaled past the point that LeBlanc's items actually matter anymore. Actually don't really matter anymore. So they're willing to contest more. They know if they keep themselves in formation, OMG have very little chance of actually winning the fight. What OMG needs to do is they need to get an explosive barrel straight onto Lucian, or else there's very little chance.
Baron is being started out by Rogue Warriors. Kilo is on the side along with Doimbi. 5 walks forward with Xiang to check out the pick. But the target is that Alistar. He uses the Unbreakable Will. Doimbi pulls him back in with the Bear Trap. Plus the Cannon Barrage used very early from Xiang, but that's the charge. They're chasing onto Mountain. He's got QSS to try and reset his Icon, looking for SMLZ and Kilo on the side, but flawless! Turns and finds the kill onto 5. Icon, 1v3. Can you outplay this, or will you flash into the wall? He goes down while the remaining members of OMG run for the hills to try and escape. There's no crowd control that can prevent that as Chelly makes his way back to the Nexus, but Rogue Warriors 5 versus 2 are going to push onto the Nexus. Mouse doesn't even need minions at this point.
Oh, he's asking them to surrender. Oh, the disrespect from SMLZ on his former team. This is the revenge tour.
It absolutely is. They chase onto Chelly, they chase onto Xiang, and they get that final reward kill as they turn onto the Nexus, and Rogue Warriors with the Bully Bruiser composition, the dog pile itself, take game number 1.
And we can see there was no love lost between the two right there. SMLZ positioning the white flag, reminding OMG that the game was already over. The last team fight was expertly played right there. Doimbi, knowing that Kahlua no longer had his ultimate, 5 no longer had his ultimate, went straight in, and OMG's response was trying to split up and trying to catch out Lucian. That didn't work, however. Flawless, again with the fast fingers, cleans up one of the carries, and Icon flashes into a wall to end that fight. Complete disaster in the final moments.
Yeah, and this is where we have to worry about the mental state of these players coming into this. It's no easy thing to sit on stage and wait for the pause to be resolved for nearly an hour. Whereas OMG, they had to do exactly that. You could see Icon with an exasperated sigh as that game ended in his player cam. Now has got to try and turn that mindset around as he gets ready for game number 2. Because Rogue Warriors, they've got the momentum coming into this.
Yeah, they definitely did. They have the better composition, and it's good to see that, not really better, but it's good to see that they can still execute the 5v5 and play around their AD carry just like they did in previous metas.
That being said, can we still call that protect the carry composition?
He's going forward with him.
Yeah, exactly that. Just try to run down and catch as many people as you possibly can. That being said, I believe our analysts now are just about ready to break down that game win from Rogue Warriors.
I was born ready, Dom. And that was an interesting toss, but I'm going to take it. Thank you, gentlemen. We are going to break down that game, but I feel like we've already done so much analysis in terms of this, so we're actually just going to take a moment and we're going to celebrate. Because I know there's a lot of discussion who's the second best ADC. I was firmly in the iBoy category. You and Clement were in the SMLZ category. SMLZ did have second best ADC in the league performance that game.
That game was exceptional. It really did remind me of how fun it is to watch a Lucian be played at the highest level, because I remember a while back when Lucian was absolutely broken and Uzi got the hand on that pick, and you got to see a team go to Worlds based off of a phenomenal AD carry performance.
He was 28-3 on Lucian when he made that Worlds run.
Yep, and it feels like with this kind of performance, and this is all based around Essence Reaver. Remember, Essence Reaver got changed for the people out there, so a lot of the ultimate cooldown, or at least the cooldowns that are not based off your ultimate, is refunded based off auto attacks when you use your ultimate. It's a looped around statement. But
it basically means that every single fight he was going to open with his ultimate, which is what you saw time and time again in these big brawls, which then meant that he was going to skate around for the rest of the fight and have all of these cooldowns available. And that's something that Lucian already had kind of working through his passive in his kit.
Yes, and so it's ridiculous to see. And there were team fights that were coming across later on that it was just so difficult to ever land any real skill shots on the man. And a lot of times you're not going to be able to catch him either, just because he was just skating across the map. So really strongly played coming out of SMLZ that game.
Yeah, and it wasn't even just SMLZ. Like the positioning was perfect, but it was kind of the whole package of Rogue Warriors. There were so many times during those team fights where like this isn't just about SMLZ being picture perfect. This is the entire team. You know, LeBlanc hops in right there. She thinks she's going to get the last laugh, and Flawless just slaps her in the face. Quick fingers, grabs her with the flash.
Yeah, real catch and release right there. Because when he released it, it wasn't a laugh at the very end, but he still got him. So that's just when you look at the composition of OMG. And we were just talking about the fact that we want to see them split up because team fights are actually just very difficult there. We've seen LeBlancs in just about every meta try and team fight and either get nailed down by a Maokai W. And you're just like, well, you should have split up because you're not going to be able to dive a backline with just the dash. Tried it once again, and great on Flawless. Fast on his fingers because he was really just expecting it. OMG were trying to team fight anyways. And so he's able to catch him out time again.
But
So
it's
yeah,
like you're saying, though, that zone control that Flawless had. It wasn't just about the fast fingers, about the flashy play. It was also the fact that every single team fight, it was SMLZ standing next to Flawless. He even would zone out Icon a couple of the fights because Icon had one job. All he had to do is find this Lucian to kill him, but he was never able to do that because of the team fight coordination from Rogue Warriors.
And remember, it was all just for me about Icon, because Icon got fed really early on. So if there was going to be one member of this team that you needed to protect, like OMG tried to protect with the multiple TPs coming into the top lane, it was going to be Icon. Ain't gonna happen though. Look how low Icon is. Look at the positioning that SMLZ has here. He can just go front to back. Doesn't matter how long he can take. He's gonna take that time. Getting the last tick of damage on LeBlanc, seeing the moment he was able to get the auto across, burn damage, gets the kill. So the eyes on point. SMLZ knew how to manage those team fights properly, expertly did so.
So is Rogue Warriors the best, like, in terms of the ranking of the LPL? Because a lot of international viewers, they know that this region is the team fighting region. Where do Rogue Warriors fall on the scale in terms of team fighting ability?
Team fighting ability, I would say they're the best. Remember, the only weaknesses that they had as a team was in setting up for the team fight. So it's doing the dirty work so you get into that fight. When you're in the fight, excellent, right? If they're at an even shot, Rogue Warriors are fantastic. But a lot of the times, top teams challenge them in the earlier part, which is setting up for the fight, getting the proper words down so you can do it, or literally just in, you're never going to get that point. Or because before you even get out of your laning phase, before you even start looking to set up, like EDD did in the semifinals, you just get the punch. so like this team coming into it, for me, and for all of us, they're the best team fighting team. I don't want to speak for you, but I feel like you agree on that point.
I definitely do agree. Now, that said, Rogue Warriors, the best team fighting team. You heard it from Raz, you heard it from me, but our man of the match does go to Flawless, who is such a pivotal point of Rogue Warriors and their ability to team fight, as well as get through that lane phase so they can be those team fighting monsters.
86% kill participation, and I feel like a good portion of that was on LeBlanc. So, showcase that he knew what his role is. That game, he was a straight role player. That he didn't need to use his ultimate to start a team fight. He just needed to use his ultimate to stop OMG for even getting to their key points.
And reminder, it was SMLZ that was skating around all these team fights. So for Flawless to take man of the match when SMLZ had a performance like that just speaks to how well Flawless was playing.
Yeah, he was playing incredibly well. Really early on too, when there was a problem in the bottom lane. I'll call it a problem, just because it was getting challenged time and again. SMLZ did fall behind earlier on because of the 2v2. He came down bottom lane and made it a 3v3, made it a 4v4. So Flawless always had his eyes on the right spots.
Giving his lanes the proper attention. That said, we are in the Revenge Tour, and there is an encore if Rogue Warriors want to clean this one 2-0, but we'll see you on the other side of the break.